Hey guys, this is your Big Dumb Movie host Korey, and I have a couple pieces of unfortunate news. Number one is that my Spotify situation is not good. Many of my episodes have been completely removed from the platform, and Spotify has basically said they won't be recovering them. This includes episodes like Gremlins 2, Hook, Congo, Baby's Day Out, and one of my personal favorites, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Because of the changes I've had to make to some of my YouTube uploads, this means that the only places where you can hear my full library of episodes unmolested is Apple Podcasts and SoundCloud. Number two is that the Big Dumb Movie Instagram has been deleted. Not by choice, mind you, but Meta removed all of my social media accounts because apparently some of my Star Wars memes were too hot for TV. There is a very slim chance that I'll be able to recover my Instagram, but in the unlikely event that I can, I will make an announcement for you guys. Thank you all for continuing to listen to my podcast. This will not stop me from making episodes and making them the way I want to make them. Alright, let's go.
Big Dumb Movie is a comedic podcast that often contains obscene language and outlandish commentary. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Big Dumb Movie, where we discuss movies of the big dumb variety. I'm your host, Korey, and I'm joined today by Steve.
Ahoy hoy.
Also, joining us, first-time guest, he's Mr. Flicks 1983 on YouTube, Phil, the movie guy Smith.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, guys. Thank you both for being here, Steve and Phil. We're here to talk about another movie from 1990. We did one of those recently, Steve. If you recall, we did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This time, we're talking about Richard Tracy, directed by Warren Beatty.
Language.
I don't want my YouTube video to be censored. You know, you can't curse within the first 60 seconds, they say, or something like that, right?
Is that a rule? Wow.
Richard Tracy, the third.
MD.
Before we talk about this movie, guys, I wanted to talk about kind of a related topic. You know, I like to do this. Obscure comic book movies that you have fond memories of.
Oh.
Now, I think this is different than just like obscure comic book movies in general, because there's kind of a caveat to this, right? That you have fond memories of. So that means that the movie might not even be good or liked or a piece of art, whatever you want to say, right? And I'm actually going to kick us off because I have one that is not liked very much. Might not even be good, but I have fond memories of. It's a movie called The Green Hornet.
Wow, I'd forgotten about that one, actually.
It's kind of old at this point because it came out about 15 years ago.
Right.
Yes.
The Green Hornet with Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring this movie up in the fond memories discussion is because I saw it with my ex-girlfriend, Ina, who's no longer with us. She passed away. And it was just one of the times we went out, like we did all the time, and went to a movie. And I remember we were talking about it afterwards. And this, you know, this is at a weird time in comic book movies where like they weren't necessarily MCU-ified and they weren't all well regarded. And I was like, well, I kind of like this, you know? It's kind of my genre. I was like, I get that it's not great. And she was like, that movie was a fucking piece of shit. She really dressed me down in the parking lot for liking this movie. And it's not like I was gushing over it, but I was like, you know, there was some stuff I appreciated there because it was comic booky. I don't know if it's necessarily a comic book, that one, but it's comic booky, right? It's a superhero thing. So anyway, that's one of the ones that came to mind for me. Now, I'm going to go over to you next, Phil. I have another one I'm going to bring up, but I think one of you guys might also bring this one up. But Phil, over to you. What's it going to be, man? Obscure comic book movie fond memories of.
I'm going to tell you, this dates back to 1990, back when pay-per-view used to show trailers and interviews for movies they were about to start showing. And one that just absolutely intrigued me, and I was only about 7 years old at the time, Darkman. Darkman, let me tell you something. It was like I had never heard of this guy at all. I don't even know if he had an actual comic book series yet, but the way that this film looked just absolutely intrigued me. And I knew nothing about Sam Raimi at this point, knew nothing about Evil Dead or Army of Darkness. Actually, Army of Darkness hadn't even come out yet. But the fact that this was a new kind of hero that was going to be shown to people as like this man. His life was nearly destroyed in a chemical plant fire, but now he's taking revenge on all those who wronged him. Like, all right, I like this. I can dig this. I'm into this.
The influence of 1989 Batman can really be seen around this time, can't it?
Absolutely. Right down to Danny Elfman doing the score.
Exactly. Yeah, Darkman. Steve, I think you have a soft spot for Darkman, right?
Huge one. I was actually going to make honorable mention of it because to Phil's point, it actually was not technically based on a comic in the sense there had not been a comic when it got made, but Marvel did publish an offshoot of it after the movie came out.
Yeah, I think some of our answers might be just kind of comic adjacent, but we'll just roll with it.
Yeah, I consider it part of the group. It was definitely a comic-inspired film. It's a great one.
Well, Steve, what are some of yours?
The only two I could come up with that I thought really counted as being obscure were some late 80s or very early 90s versions of Captain America. There were two of them, and he had a motorcycle in one. Now, I want to make it clear now, from my adult perspective, these movies are garbage, but they must have been about 7 when they came out, and as a 7-year-old, I liked them. By the time I hit 12, I didn't want to watch them anymore, but I did kind of like them.
So there's the 70s one, I think, and then there's one from 1990, I believe.
That's the one I'm thinking of. Probably. It had the red skull in it, and there was a second one where they gave him the motorcycle.
So in one of those two movies, I don't remember which, but he's wearing like just a motorcycle helmet the whole time as the Captain America helmet.
That's one of those I'm thinking of.
So it's like this guy with this bulbous head running around.
Right. But I think the reality is my nostalgia for those is more related to being 7 than to the movies. The only others I could think of really aren't that obscure, other than probably the second most obscure is Return of Swamp Thing with Heather Locklear. I really liked that one. The first one's great too, but I actually liked the sequel better growing up.
Really?
Yeah, for some reason. When I was a kid, I think as an adult, I appreciate the first one more than I did at like 12. But otherwise, I was thinking along the lines of what we're talking about today, The Shadow and The Rocketeer. The Rocketeer's a Disney movie. It gets talked about, but I don't think people are as aware of them. The Shadow's one of those ones that large parts of it are not very good, but I find it really endearing. And then maybe the 2012 version of Dredd with Carl Urban in it. Maybe. Because I just don't think people think about it very much. But
I fucking love that movie.
Me too.
Phil hates any movie made before 2010, though, right, Phil? Or any movie made after 2010.
It's very true because I feel like 2010 was the year that Comic-Con changed the way people enjoy movies and go to movies, because at that point you had Iron Man 2, you had the Guardians of the Galaxy beginning, the Avengers, and it's like everything that has now, come up before that is just absolute crap. No one cares about it anymore. Like, I can't even get a conversation going with people about the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. They want to talk Henry Cavill.
I was thinking, while Korey was talking about his reaction to Green Hornet, I have very similar feelings about some of the more recent Superman movies that I know Korey is not fond of at all, and I would love to have the opportunity to discuss that. But I kind of agree with you, Phil, and I'd actually go back to like 2002.
Oh, wow.
There's this sort of classical way of making movies that was developed during the 40s and 50s and pinnacled during the 90s and died during the early 2000s. And nothing's quite been the same since then.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Oh, God. I'm stuck with two old men on this podcast.
Right? It doesn't mean I don't like any new movies. I did like Matt Reeves' Batman quite a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I have another answer for my mini list here, right? So I talked about the first one, which was the Green Hornet, but going back further, like we're talking fond memories, you usually think of when you're a kid, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Billy Zane, The Phantom.
I thought about it. The problem, and that's going to be one of those ones where I kind of liked it when I saw it in the theater when it came out. I must have been, 10 or 11?
10. I was 10, so you were like
11 or 12,
yeah,
whatever it was. Yeah, but it didn't, like The Shadow I found myself wanting to rewatch inexplicably, but The Phantom I didn't want to go back to as much.
I never even watched that one.
I think I rewatched The Phantom a few times. I rented it a few times because it's like a movie I saw in theaters, I think.
Right.
Like my dad probably took me. And then what would happen is I would come home to my brothers, like they're technically half brothers, but they're my brothers, you know? They weren't at the movies with me, and I'd want to rent it and show it to them. So I could get them into it.
Right.
And I feel like my brother Robert was also a fan of The Phantom, so like we kind of like liked it together. But I watched it as an adult, and I was like, oh, this isn't good. This is not a good movie whatsoever. And he looks ridiculous.
Right? I have those weird mixed experiences where there are some instances where I go back and I'm like, man, I don't understand why I like this at 12, but there are also instances where I'm like, wow, the set design in this was way better than I appreciated as a kid.
There are things to appreciate in The Phantom.
Yeah.
You know, I always appreciate a good prank device in a movie.
Right.
And the villain has the prank microscope.
Yeah.
Which is like so niche of an application. Right. It's like if you have an enemy in the same room as you, if they're in your office or lab, you can be like, hey, come look in this microscope. And then the knives come out and jab their eyes.
Right?
What a prank. A real Kevin McAllister, that villain.
Right? I don't think the movies themselves are obscure, but we might even toss the two Addams Family live-action movies from the 90s in there because I don't think very many people are aware that was a comic to begin with.
Well, I think it's like this movie, a comic strip, right?
It's true, yeah.
Yeah. Those Addams Family comics kind of were, in a way, like, if you're familiar with Gary Larson's The Far Side, they were usually just a single drawn comic with a caption underneath it.
It's true.
Yeah, I think that qualifies as like a comic strip, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a vignette, a comic vignette.
Absolutely.
Quick note about The Phantom, a little memory here. My mom used to work at Best Buy, and when The Phantom was coming to like VHS release or whatever, you know, they would have like those promo displays.
Oh yeah, the standees.
Yeah, they'd have standees, and they'd be like, sometimes it'd be like free merch or whatever. What Best Buy got was this huge box of skull rings.
I remember that.
Because, you know, Billy Zane had the skull ring, and at the end it had like the power, the beam shot out of it or whatever. Well,
absolutely.
I guess like not everyone gave a shit about the Phantom because my mom took like a whole box of them home. Like I think nobody wanted them or whatever.
Nice.
God.
So I showed up at school one day like fucking Thanos wearing Phantom skull rings across each hand, both hands.
That's awesome.
You got the mad respect.
I was the coolest kid in school that day. I can tell you that much.
I must play partly into why I like this movie and The Shadow, and to some degree The Phantom too, because my mom's parents, well, all my grandparents were born in the early 20s, and I grew up getting exposed by them to the like radio shows from the 30s and 40s, and a lot of these characters appeared in the radio dramas.
Radio dramas.
Yeah.
You listened to radio dramas, Steve?
As a kid, quite a bit actually. I would put them on sometimes.
How did they dig those up and give them to you? Like what was the means? Did they have a cassette tape of them or something?
Well, you know, weirdly, I guess they must have. Well, during the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, there was a resurgence in interest in stuff from the 30s and 40s, and all of a sudden you could go to like Barnes & Noble and there would be collections on CD or cassette tape. So there were a few times, like for birthdays or Christmas, my mom or a grandparent would get me like a collection of all the Shadow radio shorts that had run between 1935 and 1940. So I could just put the disc in anytime I wanted and listen to like two of them.
So what'd you listen to? Like Lone Ranger and shit or what?
Yeah, sometimes. I think it might have been KNX. There was a period during the 90s in the evening for like 2 hours they would run radio mysteries. And I liked the Green Hornet and Lone Ranger. There was a sci-fi one that I liked and Dick Tracy and... I'm sure there were a couple of others in there I've forgotten about over the years, but yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun as a kid.
I think there's something to that because there was a mini resurgence of that kind of media, Steve, in the form of podcasts.
Yeah.
But they're not really podcasts. They're essentially radio dramas.
Yes.
And there's like X-Men and Marvel versions of it.
Yeah.
There's Marvel Wastelanders. There's like, there's a couple Wolverine ones that I really liked. And it's just like a radio drama with actors. Also, there's a version of The Sandman.
Oh, yes.
And that version has like James McAvoy playing Dream.
Yeah.
And Morpheus. And that one was really good. But that one you had to pay for.
I don't use it as my primary, but I still keep iTunes installed in my computer. And one of the few reasons why is there's actually a radio stream section within iTunes. And there's a few channels in there that digitally stream the old radio dramas. That's pretty cool.
The same way I've got my iTunes still, pretty much for that nostalgic reason.
Nice.
Well, gentlemen, the movie we're here to talk about is Dick Tracy. I can officially say the real name this time. Dick Tracy, 1990, directed by Warren Beatty, starring Warren Beatty. Steve, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How the hell was this movie made?
All right. There's a bit of a saga here. Very quickly, I'm going to keep this part short, but we've already mentioned Dick Tracy did start off as a comic book character. He was created by a guy named Chester Gould. I think this is interesting, real quick note. Chester Gould was born just outside Pawnee, Oklahoma in 1900 in a log cabin, and all 4 of his grandparents had been pioneer settlers, which is pretty crazy. He actually sold his first drawing at age 8. He started working professionally during college. During 1931, he was listening to a radio series that were dramatizations of Sherlock Holmes stories, and he'd recently been reading some newspaper articles about Al Capone, who was a Chicago mobster, and Gould put these ideas together and evolved them into the Dick Tracy character. He had some trouble selling the idea. The Chicago Tribune ended up being the first paper to carry the strip, and they ended up acquiring from Gould pretty much all of the original interrelated rights, and that's really the most important note of all. The strip became very popular very quickly. It spawned a radio show that lasted from 1934 to 1948. There were a series of film serials produced during the 30s and 40s. There were 4 feature-length films produced by RKO between 1945 and 47, some of which were filmed on a lot that used to be pretty near here in Encino. They used to own a lot of property in the San Fernando Valley they would film on. There was a live-action TV series between 50 and 51, an animated series in 61, more in 65, and then we eventually end up with the 90 feature film that we're talking about today. Weirdly, during his last few years drawing the comic, Chester Gould decided to make it way more sci-fi oriented, and there were strips where the characters would visit the moon, which I find fascinating.
Dick Tracy went to the moon?
Yeah, for a little bit he did.
What did he do there?
Detective moon, moon detective work. Very typical moon detective work.
Did he shoot an alien with a Tommy gun?
He might have, I don't know.
Welcome to the moon.
Right? Say hello to my little moon friend.
Oh boy.
Right. Gould retired in 1977. The last of his Dick Tracy comics actually ran on Christmas Day of 1977. He left other people in charge of continuing on the strip, and we'll touch more on what happened to Dick Tracy after the fact later. So Warren Beatty actually came up with a concept for a Dick Tracy film in 1975. He was a big fan, but at the time, the film rights were owned by a writer and director named Michael Laughlin, who was doing his own footwork trying to shop a Dick Tracy movie around town, and he was not interested in working with Warren Beatty. That didn't go anywhere, and when Laughlin couldn't sell a film, he had to relinquish the rights back to the Chicago Tribune, who then made a deal with 2 guys, Floyd Muttrux, who was a director, writer, and producer of stage and film productions, and Art Linson, a producer, screenwriter, and author. The 2 of them were working together. So in 1977, they picked up the film rights and tried on their own to pitch a movie. These guys have been involved in some pretty big stuff in their own right. Art Linson, in particular, was involved with Fight Club, Heat, The Untouchables, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Scrooge, To the Black Dahlia, Into the Wild, and the show Sons of Anarchy on FX.
That's my all-time favorite TV show.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
In 1980, 3 years after the 2 of these guys had acquired the movie rights, they went to UA. People at UA were interested. They got a screenwriter named Tom Mankiewicz involved, who's from a pretty impressive family of writers. He was chosen partly because he'd worked on the scripts for the first 2 Christopher Reeves Superman films, directed by Richard Donner. He also had worked on some James Bond movies, and he contributed to the scripts for Lady Hawk, War Games, and Gremlins, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately for this group, the potential deal with UA ultimately fell through because Chester Gould, who was at the very end of his life at this point, really wanted to have very strict artistic control, and they just couldn't figure out a way to make him happy.
People love their control of this character, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Oh, you have no idea.
So Muttrux and Linson tried taking the idea to Paramount, and people at Paramount really liked the idea. They actually approached Steven Spielberg about potentially directing, but Paramount decided to get Universal Pictures involved to help co-finance the film, and some of the executives at Universal pushed them to hire a director named John Landis. He's very famous. He did a bunch of movies, including Kentucky Fried Movie, Animal House, the original Blues Brothers, and the Twilight Zone movie.
Yeah, he killed a man, right?
Well, sort of.
Inadvertently.
That's actually what ended up ruining his involvement with this film. He was directing the Twilight Zone movie while they were talking to him about coming on to do Dick Tracy. There was an accident involving a helicopter on the set of the Twilight Zone movie that killed an actor, 3 people, including an adult actor and 2 kids. And When the accident happened, Landis withdrew from Hollywood for a few years afterward. It was a really big deal, and he dropped out of potentially directing Dick Tracy because that was going on at the time.
I think there's some, I don't know if it's a misconception or not, but there's some blame with him on those deaths. Is there any accuracy to that?
I wouldn't say he was responsible for causing the accident, but he was under a lot of criticism, partly because on-set laws regarding kids didn't exist in the same way at that point, and the kids were working excessively long days, and had been on set for a really long time, and really probably should have not been involved in something that involved, because they were trying to get this helicopter way down like 6 inches above a fake body of water, and that's what resulted in the accident happening. So I wouldn't say he was at fault, but it was definitely a situation that shouldn't have been happening in the first place, and he's part of that.
For legal reasons, I withdraw the statement that I made where I said he killed a man.
Right? But so while Paramount's talking to him, they also talk to Clint Eastwood, Harrison Ford, Richard Gere, Tom Selleck, and Mel Gibson about potentially playing Dick Tracy.
In the same room?
Yeah, exactly, all at the same time. And the studio also hired 2 writers named Jim Cash and Jack Epps Jr., who ended up getting the ultimate screenplay credits for the movie we're talking about today. Neither of them had a whole lot of resume at that point, but the 2 of them eventually went on to collaborate on both of the Top Gun movies, Turner and Hooch, Anaconda, and the Flintstones' Viva Rock Vegas, so that's a real prestigious resume.
Masterpiece.
Right? Apparently, Paramount and Universal, who were, again, working together to co-finance this production, got some scripts from some other writers, but didn't like any of them. John Landis asked, while he was still involved, asked these 2 directors to try, 2 writers, to try approaching the script somewhat seriously. He did not really want it to at all be campy. In fact, he mostly wanted to just make a violent gangster movie that featured characters from the Dick Tracy comic strip. So that's what they started off trying to write.
Kind of like the Godfather with Dick Tracy kind of thing? Sort
of, yeah, which becomes hilarious when you realize that Al Pacino and James Caan have a scene together in this film.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what he was kind of going for. And for research, Jack Epps, one of the writers, apparently read every Dick Tracy comic that had been written between 1930 and 1957. These 2 writers write 2 screenplay drafts for Max Landis, but they can't quite make him or the studio happy with what they're writing.
John Landis,
excuse me. Apparently, one of the writers for the comic strip at that time, Max Allen Collins, was asked what he thought of one of the drafts, and he said it was terrible. He actually referred to it as uncomfortably campy, which I think is interesting. Anyway, Landis ends up leaving the project because of the incidents on the Twilight Zone set. And they end up going to a writer-director, Walter Hill, to try to get him to take over the production. Hill has had a massive career. He was a contributing writer to the original Aliens. He wrote and directed The Warriors. He's contributed in one way or another to the movies 48 Hours, Streets of Fire, Brewster's Millions, Alien 3, Red Heat, and the 1996 movie Last Man Standing, which was an adaptation of a Kurosawa film.
Yep.
Jim Cash and Jack Epps wrote a 3rd draft of the script after director Walter Hill got involved. Walter Hill actually was the one who approached Warren Beatty, but they originally only approached Beatty to play the title part, not to do anything else. By that point, pre-production had already started. They were actually already building sets, but Walter Hill and the Paramount studio executives were having some difficulty negotiating a deal with Warren Beatty, partly because Beatty really had wanted for years already to just helm the whole thing himself, or at least have a lot of creative control, and the studio didn't initially want to give it to him. Part of it also was that Beatty wanted to do the film more like the original comic, and Walter Hill was kind of on John Landis' side in the sense that he wanted it to be more of a mobster movie featuring comic book characters. Hill and Beatty actually both walked away from the movie at one point, and Paramount shifted into trying to develop it into something much lower budget. The screenwriters continued working on rewrites and new drafts, but in 1985, the option to produce the movie expired again, and Paramount had to abandon the whole project. Beatty took that as an opportunity to finally get the entire thing for himself, and he spent $3 million purchasing the film rights along with ownership of all the script drafts that had been written up to that point, but he decided not to keep the 2 writers. Sometime around the time Beatty was actually acquiring the rights, Film executives, studio executives, Jeffrey Katzenberg and Michael Eisner, who had both been execs at Paramount while they were trying to get the movie made there. These two guys had both moved to Disney, and they both liked the idea of making a Dick Tracy movie. So they got involved with Warren Beatty as producers, or they got the studio involved as to produce. And Beatty was apparently happy to work with them. There's also a separate rumor on IMDb that Beatty was originally only offered the director's role, but that doesn't seem to match up with what I've seen elsewhere. Once the film got to Paramount, Katzenberg actually apparently got into a conversation with Martin Scorsese about directing it, and Scorsese reportedly actually signed a contract and also wanted to make this as a serious mob film. But he was insistent on getting final cut, and Warren Beatty, who was a producer at that point, wouldn't give it to him. So the deal with Scorsese fell apart. Beatty himself, before deciding to just direct the movie, reportedly had conversations with Sam Raimi, Brian De Palma, and the Coen brothers. None of them was even interested in talking about it. They just all declined. There's also a rumor that they were talking to Tim Burton, who decided to turn them down because he was involved with some degree of the production with Edward Scissorhands. Another rumor suggests that Beatty had the chance to direct the film adaptation of Stephen King's novel Misery, but he chose to do Dick Tracy instead. Ultimately, Beatty ended up in the director's role, and from his end, he's actually said in interviews that it mostly came down to the fact that they couldn't find a director anywhere else that was willing and available and that everyone would agree on having. So Beatty just kind of ended up in the role, although I think that success he'd had previously as a director was a huge part of it. It's going to be the last little bit I touch on, but 78, Beatty had produced, starred in, and co-wrote and co-directed a film called Heaven Can Wait. It had only cost $6 million to make, but it had made almost $100 million, and that had happened while Katzenberg had been working there, so there's a connection. That film was nominated for 9 Academy Awards, including Beatty for his direction. 3 years later, in 81, Beatty co-wrote, produced, and directed a film called Reds about a journalist who chronicled the October Revolution in Russia. The film was critically acclaimed. Beatty won an Academy Award for Best Director. Film was also nominated for Best Picture, and 4 other actors got award nominations. So I think that all helped him land the directing role. The studio was apparently nervous because Beatty had thrown a lot of money around on previous productions. So they forced Beatty into a contractual proviso that said that if the movie's budget exceeded $25 million, that they would start deducting from Beatty's compensation. Beatty, for his end, was supposed to get $7 million plus 15% of the gross above $50 million in earnings. The budget ended up going way above $25 million.
It almost doubled.
Yeah. They got to 30 very quickly and then to 46.5. Disney ended up spending $53 million separately on advertising and publicity. They ended up being in for like $101 million by the time the movie got to theaters. And Beatty ended up having to finance a bigger chunk than planned through his production company. But the movie was successful, and we can touch on that later on.
Money well spent, as it turns out,
yeah.
Steve, because it made $162 million.
Right, and yet somehow Katzenberg was not happy with that, which we'll get to later. Yeah,
he's a true artist, that man.
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely not a money whore at all.
No, definitely not a suit.
Right,
he's a true creative, Katzenberg.
Absolutely,
he sees himself that way. I think
he does.
From what I understand of the man,
he's a brilliant business person. I'll give him that much.
Now, I do want to ask Phil something about Warren Beatty and the rights to Dick Tracy, because there has not been a Dick Tracy movie since 1990. Because as far as I understand, Phil, you can let me know if I'm wrong, but I think Beatty has like a stranglehold on the character rights to this, and he will not release them.
Yeah, so the story, and this stems from a lot of various articles that have been published over the years, and there's also a lot that I recently looked into that have actually been produced as sort of unofficial sequels. Back in 2002, Tribune Media Services actually attempted to reclaim the rights from Warren Beatty, and they notified Disney about this. And even though Beatty commented that he had a very good idea for a sequel. He believed that Tribune apparently violated the various notification procedures that clouded the title to the rights and made it commercially impossible for him to produce a sequel. So around that same time, Beatty actually filed a lawsuit in the LA Superior Court. He was trying to seek $30 million in damages against Tribune and a declaration over the rights. And apparently, according to Beatty's lawyer, Bertram Fields, he said the original 1985 agreement with Tribune was negotiated specifically to allow Beatty a chance to make another Dick Tracy film, saying it was very carefully done and they just ignored it. Tribune is a big, powerful company, and they think they can just run roughshod over people, as they said. They picked the wrong guy. And they're not wrong about picking the wrong guy, because Beatty, like you said, he has a bit of a stranglehold on this rights to the character alone of Dick Tracy, where he can appear purely in costume as Dick Tracy and make an appearance every so many years, and that works for him, essentially giving a giant metaphorical middle finger to the Disney company. Case in point, in about 2011, the Turner Classic Movies cable channel produced a special that was simply called the Dick Tracy Special, in which film critic Leonard Maltin sits at a table and does an interview with Dick Tracy, not Warren Beatty, but Dick Tracy. But it's literally a tongue-in-cheek gag here, because it's Warren Beatty dressed as Dick Tracy, and various questions that Maltin asks him just basically get answered by Warren in character as Tracy, basically, stemming rumors about the potential new Dick Tracy movie he could be working on or may not be working on. And then in 2023, after the pandemic, they made another special, this time adding Turner Classic Movies' Ben Mankiewicz to the mix in a special called Dick Tracy Zooms In, where it is a Zoom discussion between Ben Mankiewicz, Leonard Maltin, Warren Beatty, and the character of Dick Tracy. And again, as I'm watching this, I had my wife with me at the time, and she was just getting pissed watching this. She's like, what is with this guy? Like, he seems very centric. I'm like, well, it's Warren Beatty. He's been that way since the 60s when he was a teen heartthrob. And I mean, it's like, he's like a big kid who loved Dick Tracy, and he wanted to own it, and he is not going to relinquish for anything. But he figures, all right, the best way to keep this going is to just do these little itty bitty 30-minute specials on Turner Classic Movies every so many years. And it's funny, as I was reading the comments on YouTube for this Dick Tracy Zooms In special, they're like right on the money. Like, someone actually says Warren owns the rights to the character, and him reprising the role himself, aka officially, puts him in a weird legal loophole position where these official character portrayals gives him even longer legal ownership of the character. This way, Beatty can protect the character from being used by Disney and hopefully allow the time frame of public domain to take the character instead. Warren is playing the long game. He's not allowing Disney to use Dick Tracy at all. It's really a long-winded way of saying he's petty as shit.
Oh, man. These fucking copyright, I don't want to say copyright, these like legal ownership of like IP is insane to me. Like the lengths people will go. You know what this reminds me of, Steve? That fucking Fantastic Four movie.
Oh, yeah, and that's actually the reason he did the TV specials, was basically the same thing. He probably wouldn't have made them otherwise. The proviso was, you had, just like with Fantastic Four, you had to use the character within a certain time frame or he would have lost the rights. What's funny, though, is that, now I'm not saying Phil is wrong. Phil could very well be completely right. I could be totally wrong. But my understanding was that Disney and Buena Vista relinquished any claim at all on Dick Tracy basically immediately after this came out, and they have no interest in making a sequel anyway. I thought this was all driven by Beatty.
In the way, you are right in that, Stephen, that, you were talking about how Disney put in so much money in advertising this, thinking it was going to be a huge thing. They wanted, and again, this is going to tie into something I'll discuss later with this whole philosophy I feel Disney has nowadays of, well, if you can't beat them, by them. And it's this idea that their mission literally was for this film to be their Batman of the
Yeah,
previous year. And it
that
didn't. It did great, but it didn't do Batman numbers.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing that Katzenberg was aiming for performance similar to Batman. I just thought the version of the story I'd always heard was that as soon as they decided it hadn't performed well, they just legally just relinquished any claim on anything more other than their ownership of this. But yeah, the whole thing's a real messy, weird situation, and there's some continuation comics I'll mention later on. But yeah, part of the reason the Tribune suddenly got so aggressive in 2002 is the people who owned it at the time wanted to produce their own Dick Tracy TV show, and they couldn't unless they got
Yeah.
the rights back from Beatty.
And he's just, got this strong chokehold on it. And again, it's almost like, he's just like a big, kid in this way. It's like, no, this is mine. No one can have it unless they pay me, what I think is deserving of relinquishing. It's like, and again, until it becomes public domain or Warren himself eventually passes away, it's like there's not going to be a question as to who really owns it.
No, you're right. And he did, in one of those two specials, I think in the Zoom one, he did imply that at this point, if he could get the movie made, he would cast a younger actor to play the lead. That he wasn't he wasn't interested anymore in playing like the aged version of.
We're not going to see 85-year-old Dick Tracy out there like fucking Indiana Jones.
Right. People, what's funny is Indiana Jones was one of their apparently like metric points for developing this film, and people were critical that he was a little too old at the time, but I think his whole idea was, I'm still just young enough I could just make it out that like Tracy's at the end of his career. But
Right.
But the film, I think it's worth mentioning, this was the highest grossing film of Warren Beatty's career.
It is.
It did make a huge amount of money. So
Yeah, I don't see what all the fuss is about. It was successful, but I mean, Batman 89 is like a once in a decade,
once in a generation
phenomenon.
Even Burton's second Batman movie, which we both love dearly, didn't do as well as the first one did.
Yeah.
Although that was partly because of the direction they went with it, but still.
Well, I think you made the right choice in that movie, Steve.
Oh, me too.
Well, thank you both for this bit of history and this bit of useful information and fun facts, what have you. It's time to talk about the movie itself, 1990, Dick Tracy. It opens up with that Elfman score, and we learn that organized crime is rampant.
Organized crime is their name.
What appeared to be organized hoods shattered the kneecaps of the beloved operator of a shoeshine parlor today as horrified customers looked on. The bootblack would not give up his receipts and paid dearly for his failure to surrender to gang demands.
A mother of four, unable to pay a gambling debt, lies dead tonight. Gangland thugs left her to expire in a pool of blood as they helped themselves to the contents of a cash register in her son,
We begin with a black and white Touchstone Pictures logo, but fear not, friends, this film is not in black and white. It has more color splashes than a Jackson Pollock painting. We see a close-up of a table featuring some objects, including a yellow fedora hat, a gun, and a two-way radio wristwatch communicator device. These items are all picked up by our title character, Dick Tracy, who, just before exiting the premises, dons his signature yellow trench coat to fight crime for the evening, or maybe not. We're not quite sure where he's headed, but we get a wonderful shot of the city landscape, and believe it or not, these are all actual models of buildings. This is not CGI, this is not computer effects, these were all handcrafted models. As we scan across the cityscape, we get a rogues gallery of credit list names, including the likes of Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino, James Caan, Henry Silva, and of course the piece de resistance for this film, Madonna. We even see the name of an old Disney favorite, Bert from Mary Poppins himself, Dick Van Dyke, playing against type as a slimy district attorney, D.A. Fletcher. As we near the end of the cityscape, we come down onto a small waif of the streets, a young boy who we will soon come to know as the Kid. Seeking some food, he comes across a half-eaten sandwich inside a garbage can, begins to eat it, but is stopped momentarily when he spots two uniformed officers coming around the corner. Seeking some refuge, he stumbles inside a small garage area where a poker game is in process.
Yeah. Let's pause there for a sec. Because, Steve, I'm sure there's some visuals here that, like, probably made you come in your pants.
Oh my God, yeah. I'd say a couple things real quick, and including the visuals comment, some interesting things. Number one, there are actually only 7 colors used for the entire movie, and they were designed to replicate exactly the 7 colors that 1930s era newspapers could use when printing strips. So they would have been used in the comics, and for any given color you see, that color was used on every object of that color. So, for example, anything in the movie that's red is a single shade of red. Anything that's yellow is a single shade of yellow, so on with the green, et cetera, which is really interesting. And then Phil touched on, they don't really tell you where, and he's right. They don't really tell you where. There are some subtle clues. Chester Gould never actually named the city in the comic, and they carry that over more or less in the movie. In the comic, it was always referred to as the city, but it's actually a knockoff version of Chicago. In the comic strip, some of the neighboring suburbs share their names with the suburbs of Chicago. There's actually a moment that I'll touch on later where they do let you know, number one, that there's a note where you can see 2 moments, really, where you can see that the city itself gets referred to as Homeville. And there's also, there's also 2 subtle clues in the film that let you know that the film takes place during December of 1938, which they otherwise are not very specific about. But yeah, I mean, the visuals, even as a kid, I remember seeing this in a movie theater with my mom and my brother, and just absolutely blew me away. The exterior sets are these combinations of huge matte paintings, gigantic buildings on the back lot at Universal, occasionally at Warner too. They shot at both studios. And you get these amazing views of the city itself and the buildings. And when they traipse down from the intro of Tracy leaving his apartment to down where the trash can is, where the kid is looking around, and you get these big, bright, bold primary colors. It looks exactly like a living comic book. And then when he makes his way into the warehouse, it gets very shadowy and the contrast levels go up even further. And then you get the introduction to those bad guys sitting around at the table playing poker.
Yeah, we'll get into the visuals of this, I can think, all throughout this episode. But the visuals are very striking early on. Now, you guys are more into this movie than I am, in that I had only seen this movie one time as a kid.
Really?
It wasn't on my rotation.
Oh, man.
So watching it again for this podcast, it's like watching it new for me. It was basically watching it new.
What an experience.
The twist at the end, I didn't remember. You know, there's very few things I remember. I remember these guys' faces, these mobsters, of course. That sticks with you.
Right.
That'll be with you your whole life if you see this movie once.
The makeup artists earned their pay in this.
Yes. In fact, Al Pacino liked one of the 2 guys who did his makeup so much he continued to use that man for decades. I think they still work together now.
So yeah, very distinct visuals here early on. Some really cool stuff that I couldn't quite figure out how they did when they implemented these models. Like when it would be a zoomed in shot of Dick Tracy and it would zoom out, and then it would go through like a model city, and then it would go through a matte painting, and then it would zoom back in to like Charlie Korsmo as the kid. Like some of these things were like tricky enough to where it's like I couldn't quite figure out like how they did that.
Yeah, and exactly. You're right, I agree. And it just touches on another thing that Phil said. This was actually one of the last major American productions where they refused to use any CGI at all. It was all done on set with physicals or with matte paintings.
All practical.
And they insisted on shooting everything as static as possible with almost no pans or significant camera movement. Partly because they thought that too much movement would reveal how much of it was painted, but also partly because there was a very strong sentiment that, you know, comic books happen in panels, and they wanted each moment to look kind of like a static comic book panel.
You definitely pick that up while watching it. You can really tell that they're trying to make it like comic book panels.
Right.
As you would see in a strip.
It really is meant to look like a living comic book.
Definitely. Eat your heart out, Ang Lee, right, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I actually, that's the only part of the Eric Bana Hulk that I really like, but if memory serves, you despise that effect, so.
It's too much. Too heavy-handed there. Give me that Warriors director's cut. That's more my speed.
That is very good. I agree with you about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Phil, you brought us into this poker game.
Yes.
And this is where we see, like, some people in this movie do not look like people. What is going on here? How would you describe these folks playing poker?
So this poker game includes more classic actual comic strip characters of the Dick Tracy lexicon, whose sole purpose in this scene is to be established and murdered in less than a minute of screen time.
Yes, it's so tragic.
Yeah, while not directly named, they are Stooge Villers, aka the Stooge, wearing an orange fedora smoking a cigar. The Rodent, whose appearance is meant to resemble a mouse. He's the one who actually throws an intrusive pussycat out of the picture. And the Brow, whose facial feature is his prominent brow. Littleface, whose face is smaller than the rest of his body, and a character who, for many, many years, was actually rumored to have been played by David Bowie. This man in green, whose name is Shoulders, named specifically because of his broad shoulders. However, I found out this man is actually played by an actor who, although sounds totally fake, the name of the actor playing him is Stig Eldred. And believe it or not, before I was actually recruited to do this episode, I looked this guy up and he is a real entertainer. He's not just an actor, but he's a musician, still alive, does a lot of appearances at local county fairs and small concerts in the California area. But look him up. It is not David Bowie. It is Stig Eldred. And I noted that his resume included a lot of appearances on the new Power Rangers show.
Which Power Rangers? Which
Oh,
version?
I just noticed it was like the most recent one they've done over like the last 5 years.
The Netflix one, I think.
So, as they're playing poker, it's mentioned that one of these men has a pair of aces and a pair of eights. This is known as the dead man's hand. So, a little bit of clever foreshadowing here.
Good catch, Phil.
Yes, and one thing I will mention here, in terms of the way these guys are all laid out, again, solely to be killed in less than a minute of screen time, the casting director for this film, Jackie Birch, and her resume, very big with John Hughes films, her resume included 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Weird Science, Fright Night, Commando, Three Amigos, Predator, The Running Man, Hudson Hawk, Coming to America, Die Hard, Roadhouse, Vegas Vacation, and the original Judge Dredd.
So this woman's got a list of like 15 actors that she just goes back to for every movie she's involved
Basically,
in.
yeah, basically.
And they're all good movies, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I'm calling.
I'm in.
6 in a possible straight. Queen, 8 pair of 8s. 9 no help. Jack no help. King no help. Well, little face.
So they are just playing poker and they're being observed by the kid in the shadows. And of course, as the dead man's hand is drawn, a car then suddenly smashes through their poker game, annihilating every single one of them with 2 men brandishing Tommy guns. These characters we will discover are, again, part of the Dick Tracy lexicon. They are the characters of Flat Top and Itchy. And one thing you mentioned earlier, I believe, about saying that the supposed place this is set is Chicago. That was the location of the world-famous St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and this poker game is actually meant to be a representation of that.
When you see these guys playing poker, this group of fucking ghouls, they look insane. They probably look scary to a small child, especially this guy they call Littleface, whose face is not little. He's the same size as everyone else's face. His fucking head is giant.
Yeah.
He should be called Giant Head.
They really did a perfect job, and I love the way he looks, but Big Boy Al Pacino is actually the only one in the movie who doesn't look pretty much exactly like his comic book counterpart. But yeah, they did such an incredible job translating that and turning it into the makeup. It's so tragic. These characters all die in the first scene, so even if he had made a sequel, there's no chance of seeing them again. And you're right, they're kind of freakish. I found them fascinatingly uncomfortable as a 7-year-old. I think I was, no, 8, barely 8 when this film came out. My brother, who was 4, didn't find it upsetting, but I do think that at 4 he found the villains very creepy looking when we were like, they bothered him a little bit in the movie theater.
Let me ask you this. Your brother have a lot of nightmares?
Not about this, mostly about stuff I did to him.
I never had a problem with it myself. I think I saw it. I was a year younger than you, Steve. I was 7 when I first saw this, or 6 going on 7, because it came out in June of 1990. I was 7 in July of 1990. But yeah, watching it in the theater, I think I was just intrigued by the look, because it's like, that'd be a cool Halloween costume.
You know what? You're right. In fact, you and I are real close. I'm January 83. So I think, yeah, I had turned 7 in January that year, not 8. You're right.
Okay.
So we were both 7.
There you go.
Come in, Pat. This is Tracy.
We got 5 dead men at the 7th Street garage, and nobody knows who they are. You better get over here right away.
I'm on my way. I'll be back. I want to know how it comes out. Excuse me. Ow, sorry.
Boys. Tracy. Tracy, are we glad to see you? Tracy, whoever they are, they're all dead. 5 dead men, Tracy, and we don't even know who they are. Whoever did it took their identification. They didn't take a dime. Big Boy Caprice.
Everything all right, Tracy?
Fine. Just a little trouble downtown.
Tracy, they're saying the big boy's got the city out of control. What about this rumor they're moving you up to chief of police?
We've already got an excellent chief of police, Bert. Why don't you shave off that silly mustache?
How about running for mayor, Tracy?
I'm a cop, Charlie. I don't want to take a demotion.
Hey, McNally, I want to copy that shot.
The same big boy's got the city out of control.
Still can't get anything on him, huh?
Don't let him get to you, Tracy. You'll get big boy.
Big boy's on the street and they want to stick me behind a desk.
They believe in you, Tracy. They think if you're chief of police, the city will be safe.
Tess, there's about as much chance of me getting behind a desk as there is of me getting a new girlfriend.
So we got like a mob war going on in this movie, right? There's mobsters killing mobsters.
Yep.
And we have established that like Dick Tracy's like the man in charge. He's like a detective.
He is the go-to.
He's kind of like a super cop of sorts, right, Steve?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Dick Tracy's, the uncostumed Batman, sort of the or John McClane of his era. He's just big badass. I did want to mention that Flat Top's played by William Forsythe, and he's been in a bunch of fun movies. But they immediately, Flat Top makes a point of leaving a message for Tracy in the warehouse. He uses his Tommy gun to spray a message into the wall and bullets. The kid who had snuck into the warehouse to see the poker game escapes when the mobsters come in, just barely. They hear him leaving, but no one sees him. And the next thing that happens, really, this is kind of how we get introduced to Tracy outside of that first few moments at the beginning where we hadn't seen him. He's sitting around at an opera performance with his girlfriend Tess when his watch radio goes off. And they're calling him to the scene of this St. Valentine's Massacre ripoff.
Exactly. He's got that early Apple Watch,
The
right?
Two-way wristwatch.
Yes, Chester Gould invented that idea for the comic strip. Nothing like it existed at the time. He also invented a form of closed-circuit TV for the comic strip. Nothing like that existed at the time. They found a real watchmaker to make the wristwatch radio for Beatty to wear during the film. The radio portion didn't actually work, but it's a real full-sized watch with the radio piece on it. It really is metal. It was fairly heavy, and it did have a real movement in it, so the watch part actually worked, which I think is super cool.
And that was like the go-to most desirable piece of merch from this film that I think a lot of kids wanted.
100%, in fact, and I know Korey will appreciate this one too. Apparently, they offered Charlie Korsmo's part as the kid to Macaulay Culkin, who turned it down to do Home Alone instead. And Home Alone had the handheld. What's it called, Korey? The Walkman.
The Talk Boy.
Yeah, there you go, the Talk Boy.
Home Alone 2.
So,
which was in the
1990, you go to a toy store in 1990, you got the Talk Boys, you got the Dick Tracy toys, you got a Batman 89 toys still floating around. The scene at Toys R Us in 1990.
Talk about being a great time to be a kid in the 90s.
Talkboy was the sequel, so it was 92.
Oh, you're right about that.
And then in 93, you got Power Rangers, where they got, the watches they talk to Zord on.
Yes. Now, I actually had one of those watches.
So it was a real good era for watches that were a phone.
There's some, I haven't watched any of the newer Power Rangers, but there is some newer equivalent to that from the last few years. I got a friend of mine, 6-year-old, a birthday gift last year, and what he really wanted was the new version of that, and it looks like a dinosaur, and you talk into it, and it's great.
I actually did manage to get one of those Dick Tracy watches when it came out for the movie. My mom bought it for me, and even though it worked as a watch, the radio was not a radio. You push the button, and what looked like a speaker was just a light. It lit up, basically, to make it look like you were talking to someone. But yeah, I had that watch for so many years, and then I think it got tossed in a move or something. But yeah, that was like a huge deal.
Extra, read all about it!
One of Dick Tracy's junior detectives has witnessed the killers Itchy and Flat Top leaving the scene of a crime. Luckily, he's got on the Dick Tracy two-way wristwatch, the best way to keep in touch with headquarters. The transmit button activates the voice monitoring light, and the built-in working watch keeps super accurate time. Will Dick Tracy get there, or will Itchy and Flat Top get away? Find out next time.
Dick Tracy, Baker's Vehicles and Watch each sold separately from Playmates.
Gosh, I remember that. That's a good pull, Phil. I had the same experience. A lot of those toys, it got lost between multiple moves, or my mom would grab them after a year or two and donate them because she thought I was done with them. And yeah.
Now, one thing I will say, this is something I have to just point out. So, as you mentioned, Korey, we see Tracy at the opera with his girlfriend, Tess Trueheart, and right before he leaves, he says, "I want to know how it comes out." Well, like any opera, everybody dies.
So you guys have talked about some of our main players so far. We get a glimpse of the kid. We get a glimpse of Dick Tracy. And what this movie does with him is they set him up as like the super cop figure. By one, they call him into the scene. Like, he's the first guy they call. Like, he's Batman, right? The crime happens, they call him. But also, like, when he leaves the opera house, he's kind of like being put up on a pedestal by the media, right, Steve?
Yeah.
Like, everyone kind of like knows this guy's like the shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Anything goes wrong, like, we need to make this guy mayor or fucking president or something.
Yeah, they all want him to be police chief, and you're right, he gets both sides of the experience. Like, Bruce gets photographed by the press for his social presence when he's not being Batman, and then they all want to chase him as Batman, but Dick is both sides of it. He's the social presence and the detective rolled into one. He's a press icon, and even his girlfriend is bugging him. Why don't you just take the chief of police job?
She'd rather he has what she calls a desk job.
Yeah, but he likes to be on the field. He's a man of action, Dick Tracy, right?
Right.
You can't be punching guys in the face if you're the chief. You have to be on the street to do that.
He doesn't want to be stuck behind the desk. He's got to be out punching people.
He is a man that he lives for punching people. That is his obsession. So, like I said, we get a glimpse of some of the main characters. We also get a glimpse of a character named Breathless Mahoney.
Breathless.
Who is played by Madonna in her Marilyn Monroe era, Steve. And we see her first of many, many, many nightclub performances.
Yeah. There's some other stuff involving the music I might mention later, but yeah, they hired
Stephen Sondheim.
They hired Stephen Sondheim to write a lot of the music for this film, and he'd done a lot of Broadway plays, including Sweeney Todd and some other movies, and he wrote a lot of those big numbers. There's a rumor that they cast... It's not actually a rumor. Charlie Korsmo's mother backed up that this is true. They initially cast Sean Young. I think actually that was to play Tess.
Yes, she was going to play Tess.
And she made such a monster of herself on set that they fired her like 3 weeks into production.
What is with this woman?
She's a psycho. Now, she claimed after the fact, going into what we've talked about this for her before Batman Returns, she claimed after the fact that she got fired because Warren Beatty hit on her and she rejected him.
What a shock.
But everyone else, including Charlie Korsmo's mother, in an interview said no, she was being insanely difficult, and they got rid of her because no one could put up with her.
Who do you believe, Steve?
I definitely don't believe her. I mean, I definitely don't believe Sean Young. I'm sorry, she's great.
But she was in Blade Runner. You got it.
Was.
That means you automatically got to choose her, Steve.
Right, I know she's Rachel. It's terrible.
Gotta believe in the replicants, man.
Right. Apparently they were considering some other female artists for the Breathless part and couldn't really afford most of them. I don't know what.
Tell me one of them is Cyndi Lauper.
Right.
I was going to say Cyndi Lauper. Come on.
It may have been. I don't know. Or actually, I do know that they did consider Michelle Pfeiffer, Kathleen Turner, and Kim Basinger, none of whom they couldn't afford.
What's with these Batman connections?
Right, and Sharon Stone, right, that's true. Sharon Stone apparently auditioned for a part and was within the right price range, but they didn't take her. I don't really know what the appeal was. I've got one guess. Madonna apparently really wanted this part and went pursuing it, and she wanted it so badly she agreed to take scale for payment, which turned out to be $35,000. So Madonna only got paid $35,000.
No way.
Swear to God, and Beatty got $7 million.
This was like before Madonna doing her whole empire, really.
And she was right in the middle of promoting an album of hers called, I think it was called Vogue. It was a huge, huge album, and I think that may have been part of it. It was just a great opportunity to promote her and the album at the same time. But
it was.
Yeah.
And they co-released that along with the I'm Breathless album, which had basically a sampling of what was to come on the Vogue album.
Right. Oh.
Now, I'm not big into Madonna's acting career. I know she's done a lot of movies.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a lot of Madonna movies.
This was actually her third leading role. I researched it. Apparently, up to this point, she did a 1986 film called Shanghai Surprise, and then she was in Who's That Girl in 1987 with Griffin Dunn, and a supporting role opposite Rosanna Arquette in Desperately Seeking Susan. But
Susan.
Yeah. For my money, though, her best role was always All the Way May Mortebito in A League of Their Own.
Oh, absolutely. That's my go-to for if I'm going to say Madonna in a movie where she's really good. A League of Their Own. I fucking love that movie.
I actually think she was pretty good in Desperately Seeking Susan. I think she was okay in this. I don't know that she's my favorite for this, but I think she was pretty good in that part.
Well, we'll get more into her as we kind of continue on through the story because this movie spends a lot of time with her, Steve.
It does.
Oh, yeah.
This time I'm not only getting, I'm holding my
So there's a nightclub that's very prominent, Steve. I think it's
Ritz.
Club Ritz. And we get to see a man called Lips, a disgusting human being
Lips
of a
manless.
man. Yeah. What's going on with Lips?
Lips is sitting at the center of the club at the big boy table by himself, just slurping away from a couple of huge plates of oyster shells that he's already mostly eaten through.
It's equally as disgusting as watching The Substance when you see Dennis Quaid eating. It's just like so gross.
Yeah, it's like watching a person literally inhale snot. It's not a very appealing scene. And it's Paul Sorvino, by the way, which I think is great casting, despite the fact that he's not in the movie for very long.
It is great casting.
Right? He's sitting away, and the waiter has to sort of... It's like... I had a very similar experience feeding some of my dogs when I was a kid. Like, the waiters have to come up and, like, pull the plates out from under him while they replace the plates with fresh ones.
There's actually a man snapping his fingers behind him whenever he finishes to get a new plate in.
Right? And so, he's getting fresh plates fed to him, and while he's sitting at this table slurping away, at least for the first moment or so, Breathless is giving her big onstage performance. And one of the things I think is fantastic about this little detail, she frequently has stage dancers with her, and we see more of them a little later on. The women who played the stage dancers were all professional Broadway dancers, and they had to do extra rehearsal to learn how to look awful so that they could perform in this. They're looking very mediocre later on. They didn't want them to look very pro.
Well, I have thoughts about that, but let's hold it for now. Go on.
Right? But so we were introduced to the two of them at the same moment, really, or in the same scene. And when Breathless is done performing, she goes to join Paul Sorvino at his table. And apparently he'd been doing this during their rehearsal takes as well, and she was already pretty grossed out by the way he was doing it, like in real life. So the scene builds very well. Her reaction, I think, is perfect.
Breathless? That was beautiful, as always.
I'm so happy you liked it. You mind if I leave?
What?
I get sick when you eat.
You didn't used to.
You didn't used to be a Zeppelin.
Your devotion is touching.
Genuine disgust.
One of my favorite takeaway lines, do you mind if I leave? I get sick when you eat.
Right. You didn't used to mind. She says you didn't used to be a Zeppelin.
I'm sure there's times throughout my life I've wanted to say that in my head when I sit next to someone with bad manners.
Right.
Now, Steve, Lips and Breathless, they are abducted by some cops in disguise, and they're kind of like taken away, right?
Yeah, some police marching. Now, the Ritz is obviously a hangout for mobsters, and it's a hub where a lot of probably illegal stuff is at least discussed in the background. So these guys are used to this. Some people wearing police uniforms with what appears to be a warrant come in and remove Lips, and they take Breathless out with him. And the two of them are escorted out to a car. It's waiting for them at the curb. It's actually another little moment. You can hardly even hear her say it, but it's a moment with Breathless that I quite like. When they get out to the curb to the car, Lips gets a look inside and sees Flat Top inside waiting for him. And Lips says, these ain't cops, or something basically like that. And Breathless behind him, very whispery, goes, then who are they? As they're getting shoveled into the car, which I always really liked. She's got no clue what's going on. And it's kind of in this moment that Breathless is starting to put stuff together, but Lips realizes he's being taken somewhere by rival gangsters, and this is not going to be good for him.
Yeah, there's a change in power in the local mob community, it seems, that we're witnessing, right? We're seeing
Right.
things kind of shift. But at the same time as this, we're also kind of like catching up with Dick Tracy. What this movie does a lot of is it's kind of telling two stories at once.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, obviously it's one major narrative. We're cutting kind of back and forth between Dick Tracy and what he's doing and then what the gangsters are doing.
Right.
That's kind of like how this movie is edited. And Dick Tracy kind of has taken in this kid, right? This like little pauper boy, which is, you know, as you mentioned, Charlie Korsmo. Right now he's just called Kid. But he's a little like street urchin pauper boy, right? Like a little old-timey pauper. Like,
He should be from Oliver.
Exactly. He's a little Oliver Twist kid.
Yeah.
You know, he's got like a guy that kind of like he steals for, it seems like, and Dick Tracy like goes and like beats the shit out of him because that's his favorite thing to do.
This dude that may or may not be his dad.
Steve the Tramp.
After seeing the opera, he and Tess find the kid running out of their favorite diner having stolen a watch. Tracy chases him down through the train yard. The train yard scene's amazing.
Oh,
the
yes.
overhead looks fantastic. And then when they get to a part where the kid's running away and he tries to dodge Tracy by running ahead of a train, the train was a miniature. It was not a digital composite. It was a physical miniature. And the way they got it into the scene is incredible.
They showed that actually at Disney's MGM Studios back in 1990. And I remember they showed us on the tour how they made that shot. And I was blown away when I saw it on the actual film.
You were working at Disney in 90?
No, he was attending.
Oh, that's right. You were too young.
Yeah. I was there for vacation right before the film came out, but they showed in part of the backlot tour how they managed to make that scene with the matte painting, the train miniature, and the kid running in front of it.
It's so cool.
I wish I could have gone to that park when it was MGM. It seemed like they had some really cool shit back then.
Oh, it was so much better back then, believe me. I could go on a rant, but I won't.
That's all.
Yeah.
Hey, tough guy, you want to try that on somebody your own size? Maybe we should step outside. Okay, tough guy, now do you want to give the kid a piece of chicken? We got a place for people who beat up kids. This cockroach your old man?
Go suck an egg.
So Tracy ends up finding the kid at this little ramshackle hut with this guy he's stolen the watch for, and the dude hits the kid, and then Tracy comes in and beats the guy up, and that's kind of what instigates Tracy ending up being with the kid.
He destroys the shack, too.
He takes him on as his ward, in a way, right? It's
Right,
kind of like a Robin situation.
Which is really weird when you consider that the original Robin's Dick Grayson.
So, Steve, I could not help but make this note when I was watching this movie. This movie is a combination of Batman 89 and Batman 66.
Oh, that's a good combo.
Yeah, it kind of is.
That
You're right.
is how I would describe this movie to someone who hasn't seen it.
I mean, yeah, you're right. It's very comic-y, very noir-y. Some of the camp got left in it. And there's a lot
of the camp.
Right. A lot of the best scenes are between the kid and Tess. You know, Tracy at one point after rescuing the kid, has to leave the kid at the restaurant, the diner with Tess. Tracy throws $1 down on the table as he's leaving to pay for the food. The kid steals it thinking Tess hasn't seen him do it. She looks at him and goes, "How'd you like a broken arm?" You know?
Just a slight bit of violence against children. What else would be formulaic for a 90s movie?
Right?
Yeah.
But I think it's great. The dynamic between these characters always really worked for me. I loved it as a kid and I love it as an adult. Like, my problem with Adam West's Batman was always that the camp factor was too overblown.
It was
felt
dialed
like,
up.
Yeah, it felt like it's like a Joel Schumacher movie, basically.
Yeah, or the other way around. The Joel
Right.
Schumacher movie is
like that,
yeah.
right?
But
You know?
yeah, absolutely.
With
This is
one-
a little bit light. This does have some of that Batman 89 energy
Yeah.
mixed in. And the Danny Elfman score, I mean, you know what? I've been a longtime defender of Danny Elfman, but I gotta say, he kind of just did Batman 89 again in a lot of his score for this movie.
You're not wrong.
Now, he did get nominated, so, you know, I can't take that away from the man, but...
Right.
You're not wrong. And I was even going to touch upon the fact that if you were to listen to Danny Elfman's score for Darkman, which came out in the same year, this and Dick Tracy's score, it's almost like the exact same.
It's very close. Well, so funnily enough, I'll touch on this now. I was going to hold it till later. Elfman ended up working with two other people, one of whom, Steve Bartek, had been one of his bandmates in Oingo Boingo, and the other was a composer and conductor named Shirley Walker. Shirley Walker did a lot of the orchestral compositions. She also served as the composer for Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, The New Batman Adventures, and Batman Beyond. She also conducted all the recording sessions for Batman 89.
Wow.
And for Mask of the Phantasm, one of my favorites. And one little bit I learned here that I did not know before, all of the lyrics that she came up with for the choir voices to sing for the Mask of the Phantasm soundtrack were actually orchestra members' names read backwards. So it's all gibberish. It sounds like Latin, but it's all gibberish. But yeah, I mean, so clearly you're right. Like, not only did he draw a lot of Batman 89, but the people, this woman in particular he worked with, they spent the next 20 years doing some variation of that Batman score just over and over and over and over and over.
A classic never dies, Steve.
No, it's a great score.
Oh, look what you did to your pretty tuxedo. Big boy, ain't we pals? No pals in this business, Lips. You taught me that. Sign it.
The deed to the Club Ritz?
That's right. I'm going into show business now. You're dirty, Lips. You need a bath. I know, and I'm gonna miss you. But all's fair in love and business. Benjamin Franklin.
Meanwhile, the mobsters. This is where we get to see the principal villain of the movie, Big Boy, played by Al Pacino, and he's giving a man a bath, but not sexually, right?
Yeah. Now, as a kid, I hated having to take baths. So when Lips starts screaming, "Not the bath, Big Boy, not the bath," I thought maybe he was being made to really take a bath and clean himself up. Little
Yeah.
did I realize in the upcoming scene what a cement bath was.
They put you in a box, they pour cement on you, then I guess they toss you in the river. I think that's the kind of the idea, right?
Let you drop down a trapdoor into the river. And I noticed during the scene, this is our main introduction visually to Al Big Boy Caprice, played by Al Pacino. And I have to believe that it was a combination of improv and script where Al Pacino as Big Boy decided to misquote famous people. All throughout the film, he drops little quotes where he'll say stuff like, "All's fair in love and business, Benjamin Franklin." And it's like, no, I don't think so. And the other thing about Big Boy, and I don't know if this was part of the comic books, but he cracks walnuts in this film. And it seems like anytime some crime is about to happen or something bad's about to happen, someone's going to get killed, Big Boy cracks walnuts. So that's kind of like as if like it's the oranges in the Godfather film. Whenever there's an orange in the scene, someone's about to be killed.
Pacino was apparently Beatty's first choice for the part, and I've heard he agreed to it pretty readily, but for some reason he did not originally want his name to be used in the credits. He was initially considering asking them to use a pseudonym. There was a souvenir magazine tie-in for the film published by the company Topps that does the trading cards.
Yes, I remember that.
In the souvenir magazine, they actually referred to Al Pacino as Guido Frascati.
Guido.
To avoid everything. Yeah, because apparently that's what he was going to use, or something like that was going to be his name.
Wow.
But he was the only one in the cast, right? He was the only one in the cast whose character does look great, but not like the comics. The character in the comics was a rather large, obese man.
He was lumpy, yeah.
Well, yeah, everyone's name is like so on the nose, right?
Yeah.
And
except for him,
right?
Oh.
Pacino didn't like the design, so he was the only one. They said, "Fine, let Al come up with the character design himself."
Yeah, he came up with his own makeup design, basically.
Yeah,
he has like a kind of a Al Capone kind of look to him, doesn't he?
He does.
Exactly. One note I wanted to point out, one character created solely just for this film was the character of Numbers, Big Boy's accountant, who is actually played by James Tolkien, who you'll probably remember best as Principal Strickland in the Back to the Future movies.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. And he was in Problem Child 2.
Yeah, and ironically in that film, he has a rule that says no slackers, if you happen to catch that on his blackboard.
Yeah, I forgot to bring that up on the podcast. Thank you for mentioning that. We did a Problem Child 2 podcast.
One thing about when they do eventually dump Lips in the river with the cement bath, Numbers is the only person there you notice crossing himself after he's witnessed this.
Now, among the henchmen that Big Boy has, I got to say the most memorable is the guy that I think is called Flathead.
Flat Top.
Flat Top.
Yeah, William Forsythe.
The look of him is very distinct and memorable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And like super mobstery. Like underneath the makeup, William Forsythe already has the right face for this kind of role.
He does. He's got that face.
And I just love the way Flat Top looks. Like, that dude is iconic.
Yes.
He also played a gangster with a normal face in Once Upon a Time in America, which is a wonderful film.
Yeah, and not to mention American Me, right? Wasn't he, I was going to say Miklo, but that's Blood In, Blood Out.
Yeah, that's Blood In, Blood Out.
or whatever.
That's right, yeah. He was also in Raising Arizona and Career Opportunities with...
Cloak and Dagger.
Right? That's right. He was Career Opportunities with Jennifer Connelly and...
A.K.A. Steve's Fat Film.
Oh, my God, yes.
I love Career Opportunities. That horse scene alone.
Yeah. He did a really fantastic noir film called Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. He's been in a bunch of great stuff.
So... we got the new boss man in town, the new mob boss, Big Boy.
So one thing I want to point out along those lines really quick is that before they give Lips the cement bath, they force him to sign a contract that gives Big Boy complete and total ownership of the Club Ritz. This is a power play. Big Boy's forcing him to sign over ownership of the club before they kill him. And you can't really tell in this scene, but you get to see the contract again a little later, and that's one of the things I was making reference to earlier. When you do get a look at that contract, it lists Big Boy's address as Gratitude Street in Homeville with no state and no zip code. And the date on it says December 1938.
Good catch.
Yeah.
There we have it. So this movie takes place in over a period of a month or less.
Yeah. There's another moment I'll mention where you get a date. So you can tell. You're right. It takes place over a couple of weeks.
So Big Boy has taken over the club. He's taken over all of Lips's henchmen. You know, he's seizing power. He's taken over his women, his performers. And his first order of business, and this is what I like about Big Boy. Big Boy is kind of a fascinating character. You know, not only is he a crime guy, but he's very interested in like directing the musical performances at his newly acquired club, right? Like he's a very hands-on guy.
Yes.
Every time.
Gotta pick it up. Gotta pick it up.
Soon you got the kid as well as the.
Higher, let's go. Never stop the money. It's gonna rain. That's it.
10, have you 20, if you like penny, would you like many more? Or does that start to breathe? That's not greed, no.
When he's not running organized crime, he's a passionate director of like what I could only call like a burlesque style chorus line dance / song performance.
Yes, yes.
And he's into it. Like the movie spends quite a few minutes with him just directing it, right, Steve? Like
he's so into it. He's groping Madonna and smacking the dancers on the butt, and he's
like kind of like dancing with him. He's like, all right, from the top,
right? Just this very obsessive, right? Obsessive compulsive musical enthusiast, and yeah, it's pretty great. Al Pacino claims that Madonna repeatedly flashed him during rehearsals, which I think is pretty funny.
Rewatching that, I noted Al Pacino would make a great choreographer.
He would.
Well, you know, at least he could fall back on that as his job if the life of crime doesn't work out for him.
Or the Dunkaccino.
Lining up for my Dunkaccino. What's my name? Dunkaccino. Dunkaccino.
All copies. Destroy them.
That's got to be an episode, Steve. We got to do Jack and Jill.
Oh, God, really? Oh, God, even by Sandler standards, that movie is so terrible.
Now, Steve, Dick Tracy himself is investigating this crime. The crime, of course, being the murder of Lips, right?
Yeah.
He finds some clues. He takes in a suspect, mumbles. Kind of, what's going on here, Steve?
Firstly, they find a bunch of, are they walnut shells?
Yeah, the cracked walnut shells.
Right, on the floor of the warehouse when they go to investigate Lip's disappearance, and Tracy knows that Big Boy's got a predilection for them. So he immediately assumes that Big Boy was involved, and he tries to get the department to fingerprint the shells, which they're not ultimately successful at doing.
Shocking.
Right? And he starts bringing in people, including a member of Big Boy's crew called Mumbles, played by Dustin Hoffman, who generally always speaks by very quickly mumbling. He's almost like the Dick Tracy universe's version of Boomhauer from King of the Hill.
Yeah.
No,
Hello, Mumbles.
What was about you?
Where's Lips Man?
I don't know.
It's a very strange role, I think, for such a prominent actor as Dustin Hoffman.
He had just come off an Oscar win of Rain Man, basically.
Exactly.
Right.
And he's kind of Rain Man-ish in this movie, except I think he's a nonverbal autistic in this movie, or at least so it seems.
Except when you're not later on. But yeah, he based on what I've heard and read, he seems to speak very positively about the experience and enjoyed it. But I've also heard that he took that role primarily as a favor to Beatty.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it was.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, they were in that movie Ishtar, one of the biggest bombs of the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of several large productions from that period. Not quite the same degree as some of the others, but that one I think is looked on more favorably now than when it first came out. There's another huge one from roughly the same period I bet Phil is aware of called Heaven's Gate, Michael Cimino film.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Now, Dick Tracy does take in Big Boy because he's suspected of murder, but Big Boy gets off. He's not arrested quite yet. And we get an important meeting scene, Phil, and that's kind of the first time that Dick Tracy meets Breathless Mahoney. It's kind of the first instance of attempted seduction, right?
Yes, their first face-to-face, which actually reflects upon a real-life romance that the two actually began during the making of this film. They did actually date for a while, but basically he comes into the club, interrogates Big Boy about the whereabouts of Lips Manless. He kind of gives him a runaround just with a very basic, I don't know, he must have skipped town or something, or he may not be feeling too well these days. But he discovers the newest talent that Big Boy has taken on is, in fact, Breathless Mahoney. Breathless just kind of looks at Tracy. She doesn't speak any words to them, but you can kind of see that even with the illumination from the stage lights there, she has that look in her eyes where she is definitely feeling some chemistry between herself and Tracy.
Are you gonna arrest me?
If I were gonna arrest you, I'd have done it by now.
Then what are you up to, honey?
I think Lips Manless is dead. And I want you to tell me who killed him. Or maybe you weren't on his side. Whose side are you on?
Side I'm always on. Mine.
No grief for Lips?
I'm wearing black underwear.
You know it's legal for me to take you down to the station and sweat it out of you under the lights.
I sweat a lot better in the dark. I know how you feel. You don't know if you want to hit me or kiss me. I get a lot of that.
Look, you're safe. Big Boy's in jail. You're the one that can keep him there. Give me a call.
I think it's safe to say she wants Dick.
Oh, yeah. In the biggest way possible, yes. So Tracy assesses the situation by changing the topic of Lips' whereabouts to whether or not Big Boy enjoys walnuts. And as he says, yes, I do. He says a lot of people like walnuts. They're good for the liver. And Tracy then closes this conversation very abruptly by saying, but they're bad for the brain. You're sloppy, Big Boy, and you're under arrest. Immediately, they take Big Boy out and clear the room, but Tracy, instead of going with the remaining officers, decides to hang back and head towards Breathless's dressing room. And for what may be the very first time in a Disney-produced movie, we get to see a see-through outfit that Madonna is wearing.
PG rating, guys.
Yes.
Disney originally intended to release this under the Disney banner, and during production, when they realized what they were going to get, they weren't, to my knowledge, right?
You're telling me we were going to see the castle at the beginning of this movie?
Originally, that was the plan, and
the trailers had that actually.
Yeah, and they weren't mad about it, to my understanding. But during production, they decided they were going to release it through Buena Vista instead, because that was their channel for more grown-up movies.
That and Touchtone.
Yes.
So we get to see some revealing nipples of Madonna, which we would get even more eyeful of later that year when her documentary Truth or Dare came out.
No, right.
So we see Tracy interrogate Breathless in a way that is, half seduction, half interrogation, because one thing I've noticed in that scene is that he takes his hat off. And usually if you see a detective or a policeman take his hat off, it usually means he's no longer working. He's, relaxing. He's enjoying himself. So I think that was almost a telltale sign for Breathless to unleash her flirtations with Tracy. And none other than the line when he says, "You don't have any grief for Lips," and she just says to him, "I'm wearing black underwear."
It's very horny, the whole scene. And it's the first of a few. I think the horniness escalates.
Yeah, so she is just standing there answering little by little, but Tracy sort of, I guess, realizes, okay, it's time to wrap this up before, things get a little too sexy. So he just basically says, call me at my office if you're ready to testify, runs out, leaving her just with this longing look as he leaves her.
That's right. Now, Steve, as the story progresses here, as we kind of start to move forward, Dick Tracy is kind of taking care of this kid. You know, there's conversations here and there about like, well, he's an orphan kid. We got to get him to the orphanage. The kid doesn't like that idea, and he keeps kind of finding reasons to like stick around with Dick Tracy. So
yeah.
Dick Tracy is essentially taking care of him for the time being. What we see is that the kid gets some new clothes, he gets food, and we do this like montage.
The when do we eat montage.
And this movie loves a fucking montage like it's a goddamn Rocky movie.
Right.
And this is the first one.
The young man will be out in a moment, I presume.
All right, when do we eat?
Live alone and like it, free as the birds in the trees.
When do we eat?
High above the briars, live alone and like it, I do whatever I please.
When do
When
we
my
eat?
heart desires, free to hang around or fly at any old time.
When do we eat?
Funnily enough, I'm going to tie this in with one quick comment I was going to say for later. According to Warren Beatty, the original cut of this film was over 2 hours. And
Yes.
Katzenberg disliked that so much that he kept enforcing edits to trim down the running time. And I've heard that they decided on montages, to use montages a little more heavily than they might have otherwise to make up for what they were cutting.
That makes sense.
It does feel strange, I gotta
Right.
say. The montages. This first one and some of the others I think are a little bit more egregious, but there's also some kind of hidden gems in some of them.
Yeah.
The one with the kid eating, I couldn't help just feeling bad for this child actor because they made this kid eat a lot
Constantly, right?
of fucking food.
Chicken, ice cream sundaes, pie.
And I can almost guarantee you this actor is traumatized from it.
Charlie Korsmo seems weirdly well adjusted. He did. Who was the other one who did this? Jeff Cohen, who played Chunk in Goonies. Almost the exact same fate. Charlie Korsmo acted up until he was like in his late teens or early 20s. The last big film he did was called Can't Hardly Wait with Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yep.
And then he decided he just didn't want to be an actor anymore. Ended up going to like Harvard, getting a law degree, and that's what he does now.
MIT, yeah.
But he seems like a really nice dude.
Dude, imagine you're in court and it's like, who will be representing you? And I'd be like, the kid from Hook, Your Honor.
Right, the kid from Hook and Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
Right.
And what about Bob?
And what about Bob? That's right. He was great in that too. That's the weirdest part. A lot of those kid actors they're fine, but they're not really that good. He was good. He was always good.
I would be like, can you put something about like Hook in your closing statement? You'd be like, you know, when I was a young man, Robin Williams once told me something. Truth always matters. And that's what this case is, Your Honor. A misuse of truth.
Absolutely.
Case dismissed.
The whole audience applauds. Like, oh man, I need to get this guy.
I've been thinking, Tess.
What about?
Well, you living alone.
I like living alone.
Huh?
You know that? I'm not the lonely type.
That's something we got in common.
Yep, we have that in common.
Well, don't you think that since we have so much in common, it might be a good idea if we just went ahead and...
Yes?
Look, I wasn't thinking about you living alone as much as I was thinking about me living alone.
So, you know, there's kind of a family unit established of Dick
Yes.
Tracy, of Tess, and the kid.
Yeah.
They're kind of like somewhat of a family that's come together, even though Dick Tracy is not married to this woman. That this is the love interest in his life.
Yes.
Now, I gotta say, Steve, Tess does kind of feel like a wet blanket to me in a lot of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, she just kind of seems unhappy all the time. Not like morbidly depressed, but
Right.
and there is a point when she has a reason to be, but she just kind of seems a little sour.
Tess is an interesting character as well, very layered. She's very independent, very capable. She clearly does not need anyone else taking care of her.
She just seems mopey to me.
Yeah.
That's my only point.
Yeah,
Like,
she's a little mopey though.
I don't love scenes with Tess that much. Like, I kind of understand what she's doing for the movie, right?
I see where you're coming from, and I don't really disagree with you, but I think that performance is very good. myself. I like the way she handled that part, but I agree with you.
You're not wrong in that respective, Corey, in that you're talking about how she does seem like a wet blanket. Also, consider the two lead females in this film, Madonna and Glenn Headley, who plays Tess Trueheart. Consider their actual positions, where Breathless is a nightclub singer. She's used to being looked at and adored by so many people. Tess works in a greenhouse. She's in a glass house enclosed by plants all day long. So she doesn't need anyone to look at her. She's just doing what she does.
Thanks for calling. I was beginning to wonder what a girl had to do to get arrested.
Wearing that dress is a step in the right direction.
I do want to talk about Breathless again, Steve, because we get a second seduction attempt when she shows up to Dick Tracy's office,
right,
in her Elvira cosplay.
Elvira cosplay. Yeah, I mean, I actually dig that outfit. There was some pretty, I mean, there always has been. As long as there have been fashion designers, there's been flamboyant clothing. But the more flamboyant stuff from the 30s and 40s was very ornate. It seemed very inspired by, like, the kind of clothing you would have maybe seen Queen Elizabeth wearing otherwise. Like, not the recent one, like from the 1500s. But, yeah, she comes in a very kind of high fashion type dress with a very high collar around it and all black again, being as seductive as she can, just clearly wants Tracy to give in. I think Madonna did do a good job of getting at least a little bit of layering into the way she's approaching it. Because on the one hand, it's obvious she just wants to distract Tracy from his investigation, which she's involved in. But she also is kind of weirdly into him. It's a double-edged thing.
Yeah, she is. She's going hard on this. Like, she starts crawling on his desk.
Yes.
And, like, bending over, you know?
I think that was the one moment, even as, like, the negligee part I don't think bothered my mom that much, but my mom took my brother and I to see this in a movie theater in 90, and I think the scene she was crawling on the desk, my mom was like, I'm not sure I should have taken two little kids to this.
There's a great one-liner in that where she says, I was wondering what a woman had to do to get arrested, and he says, well, wearing that outfit's a good start.
Right, and that's one of the things I appreciated about this film growing up, is that some of those moments and jokes I didn't really fully get at 7, and I was watching this movie like once a year throughout the 90s, and eventually I got into my teens, and I'm like, wait a second, now I understand what that means.
Yeah, it goes over your head as a kid. It's like, oh, I know what they were referring to now.
Right.
Dick Tracy does not succumb to her feminine ways, though. He says, I want you to be witness to testify against Big Boy, and she basically says, nah, I'm not interested, and she leaves. But we'll talk more about them because they have many interactions in the movie.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's a kind of a big scene, Phil, that I'm going to go to you for. It's when Big Boy calls a meeting of all the bosses. You know, Big Boy, he's seen the movie The Warriors, right? He knows that if they unite, they can have it all, right?
Very much so. Just before that, I just want to point out Madonna, for those who are car fans, her car is a very interesting car. It's a 1936 Auburn Speedster. I've never seen another car like that she drives in this film, and it is clearly her car, bright pink, 1936 Auburn Speedster.
In a movie with great classic cars, hers is the best one.
Auburn Speedsters are among the most beautiful things that have ever come out of the automobile industry. There were a small number of vehicles during the 30s that did a boat tail rear end, and they're incredible. I agree. That's such a nice touch.
If she added a spoiler on the back of that, it would be fucking perfect. Right, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. Indeed. What it needs is a giant double-deck spoiler and some like Honda stickers, you know.
Diamond plate floorboard.
Diamond plate floorboard cut inexplicably right where the pedals are. And a NOS button and a laptop. That's how you really set that up.
I remember all of you from when I was nothing. Pruneface, you tossed a firebomb in my car one night. Give me a lot of trouble, but I forgive you. Mocha, you put 3 slugs into me, but I lived. I forgive you, too. I owe everybody at this table a little something, but I forgive all of you. Why? Because I put the past in the past. However, a boss who cannot see the future becomes a liability to everyone concerned.
What are you, a fortune teller? What do you mean, the future?
Boomface, what I mean is the future is me.
So this gathering of the mind, as it were, a lot of people in this scene, a lot pulled from the original comic strips, one of which is actually a female mobster by the name of Texie Garcia. And even though she has no lines, that actress playing Texie Garcia is Catherine O'Hara. Lincoln, you'll miss it. Yeah, pre-Schitt's Creek, even pre-Home Alone, Catherine O'Hara. Also in this round table is the character of Spud Spaldoni, who faces off at the south end of the table opposite Big Boy Caprice, played by James Caan, who that same year would go to star as Paul Sheldon in Misery opposite Kathy Bates.
Who was also in this movie.
He was also in this movie, and
no, Kathy Bates was.
The stenographer, yeah.
Yeah, and they offered Beatty the chance to direct Misery. I think I may have mentioned this already, and he turned it down because he was involved with this.
Yes. So we get the meeting of the minds here where Big Boy is outlining his entire plan to essentially take over the city, and that every time someone spends money, they'll basically get money from what others have spent. And this whole thing is laid out in a way that sounds like it could actually work in Big Boy's favor. And it only works, of course, if everyone is all in. But of course, James Caan, as Spaldoni, says, I'm out, primarily because he wants to know why Big Boy is leading and not probably him. I'm sure these guys have had issues in the past. As Big Boy even says in the beginning, everyone has done something to them in the past. Like he looks at Pruneface and says, Pruneface, you tried to hang me once. I forgive you. Mocha, you once had me kidnapped and held at gunpoint. I forgive you for that. But essentially, Spaldoni is the lone standout where he says he's out, and Big Boy tells him it only works if we're all in. So he says, then it don't work. Walks out of the meeting. What they don't realize is that Tracy has actually been watching from the ledge of the building outside, and he mentions to his assistants, Sam Ketchum and Pat Patton, who are waiting in a nearby vehicle, that he's basically seeing a round table of all the goons they've previously had issues with and have had previous criminal history. So as he tries to get some more information on the situation, he hides from the window and notices Spaldoni is actually walking into his car. And as Spaldoni is about to leave, his car ends up exploding, which surprises everyone in the meeting. But Big Boy is undeterred, as if he knew he was probably going to be the lone standout, and has just a simple utterance of, very depressing.
Any of those bums find you up there, Tracy, the chief will never forgive you. Come on, Tracy, get off that building. If they get you, they got a perfect right to do whatever they want. Nice shot! Very upsetting.
I want to take this opportunity to subject the two of you to a trivia question. Can either of you name a movie that came out the year prior to this that features mobsters and was directed by Tim Burton and has a scene that is almost exactly like this one?
Yeah.
I wonder.
It may have been the original 89 Batman. This is so much like the scene where Joker has got everybody at the round table and he ends up frying the guy with the hand buzzer. And
I gotta say, between the two, I like that one better, Steve. Not that there's anything wrong with this one.
No, I probably would edge slightly toward that one too. Although I love it here as well. I love this whole movie. It's good. Having James Caan and Pacino together post. It's the only time I think they ever did anything together after Godfather, but that's fun.
No, you're absolutely right on that one. As we get away from this, Tracy actually jumps onto a lamppost to get on top of the getaway car that Sam and Pat are in. And there was actually, and this is actually on film,
Yes, I'm hoping you mentioned
Warren
this.
Beatty actually hurt himself while jumping into the lamppost. He insisted on doing this stunt himself, where he jumps from the window ledge or the building ledge to the lamppost, and he bangs his face right into the lamppost, and you see him actually reel back from the impact and then jumps onto the hood of the getaway police car. But
they didn't even do another take. He slams his face on it. Yeah.
I thought that was a stunt performer, and I watched that scene and I said, oh, that poor stunt performer. He fucked himself up.
Somebody, I think, once asked Warren Beatty if he felt bad for the guy who hit his face up doing the lamppost bit. Beatty was like, that was me.
Yeah, that was me. As we leave that situation, we get our first glimpse of the so-called No-Face character, who is referred to as the Blank in all other places but the film itself.
Not to be confused with No Face from Spirited Away.
Correct.
Not to be confused with Blank Man.
Right? God, I don't know why I find that movie funny. It's so stupid.
So we just see a simple character, all in black fedora, black trench coat, but just a big mound of flesh covering their face without any definitive features. So this is the moment where we wonder, now who is this?
And can they speak?
Can they speak?
How do they breathe or eat food?
You know, Tracy, for a tough guy, you do a lot of pansy things.
Is that right? Who is it?
Mr. Tracy?
Who is it?
I'm Mrs. Scaff. I'm from the welfare department.
The welfare department?
I'm afraid we're going to have to take the little boy to the orphanage.
Well, just give me 1 minute, Mrs. Scaff.
I hope you understand, Mr. Tracy. As a single man, you can't just pick up a child from the streets and take him home.
Mrs. Scaff, let's discuss this.
It's the law. Then he has to be processed through the proper channels.
I think you'll...
We don't want no kid copper.
Yeah, we don't want no kid copper. Get dressed.
So there's this whole big deal going on. It does seem like a lot of the mobsters are going to agree to the terms laid out by Big Boy. And Dick Tracy gets abducted from his home. They got to deal with him. They know if they're going to form this Legion of Doom of theirs, that they have to pacify the person who's going to stop them. So Flat Top abducts Dick Tracy, Steve. They take him into a basement of a building. I think it's Tessa's building.
It's Tessa's
the
building,
boiler
yeah.
room.
And they offer him a bribe, right?
They offer him, I think, $15,000, which in 1938 is a just absolutely stupidly gigantic amount of money. I mean, not that there weren't people that didn't have it, but you could buy an extraordinarily expensive car back then for something like $6,000 or $8,000. So $15,000 would have gone a really long way. Yeah. And anyway, so yeah, they've got him tied to a chair, I don't think he's tied at first, and then they end up tying him. Tracy throws the money back at Big Boy's face, and they tie him to a chair and basically tell him they're going to blow him up in this boiler room.
Will Dick Tracy escape this situation?
That's perfect, yes.
Find out in next week's issue.
Yes, if this had been one of the 30s era Dick Tracy serials that they'd made for movie theaters, that's absolutely where that episode would have ended, and you would have picked up next week.
Except, we would have probably have seen it, like, explode.
Right, yeah. Right.
And, like, he didn't escape. But then they'll retroactively make it so he did.
But going back to what you were saying a few minutes ago, the kid's been milling around and following Tracy around even when he's not supposed to be. So it turns out the kid's there. He knows what's happening.
And the kid comes to the rescue. He unties him. He's a Robin, this kid, you know?
Yeah, Dick and Junior Dick. Literally, Dick Grayson. And they both escape just moments before the room blows up. I still don't really understand why Big Boy chose Tessa's building to do this. Tess was not home. It's not like she would have gotten blown up.
There was a message, I have to believe, he was trying to send to her in that, like, if I can do this to your boyfriend, imagine what I can do to you.
I guess that's true. And the Flat Top had already tried to shoot Tracy at one point outside Tessa's building. Yeah. So
I like Big Boy and his henchmen talking shit to Dick Tracy.
Yes.
Like, you dumb dick.
Yeah. It's great.
This is when the name becomes the insult.
I guess that's the end of Dick. 30 seconds, no more Dick. 30 seconds, no more Dick. 30 seconds, no more Dick.
30 seconds, no more Dick. 30 seconds, no
Oh,
more Dick.
I love it. The whole spirit of this movie feels, in my opinion, exactly the way it's supposed to. It's definitely a pulpy 30s era detective radio drama with these crazy comic book characters. I think it's perfect. I love it.
You know, I felt some real nostalgia when, and like I said, I don't remember this movie very well. It's almost like a first time watch for me. At the very beginning, when you see that yellow font that says Dick Tracy, boom, the nostalgia hit me.
Right.
And it occurred to me at that moment that Dick Tracy was a big fucking deal when we were kids.
Yeah.
Not just this movie, but like the concept of Dick Tracy, right? Like he's like this tough guy detective, kind of like in the same way that like Indiana Jones. So it's like,
absolutely.
Even as a kid, if you hadn't seen the movie Indiana Jones, you kind of like knew who he was. You kind of got what he was about.
Yes, really. I think I touched on this when we were talking about how it got made, but mid to late 80s and early 90s, I think it was really driven to please people roughly my grandparents' ages. There was this weird resurgence in interest of like 30s and 40s type material, and they approached a lot of it that way. And it's weird. I've got this nostalgia for stuff that's supposed to be set in the 30s, but was made during the late 80s and early 90s. Like it's a mishmash. You know, but you're right, absolutely. And you get this very 90s impression. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it. There's a 22-minute long TV special called Behind the Badge that Disney produced in 1990. It's not on any of the home video releases, but it is on, I bet you have, Phil. It is on YouTube. There's technically, you can buy it online on a weird store on DVD, but it's just a copy of the same video that's on YouTube. It's not a real DVD. And as soon as you start watching it, it's like, oh my God, clearly this was made in 1990. If you were alive in 1990, you wouldn't need anyone to tell you that's when it was made. You're like, this is from 1990.
Clearly a product of its time.
Right.
Yeah, time traveler would just have to look around. They
Yeah,
wouldn't have to grab someone and say, "What year is it?"
What year is it? Oh, it's like, it's clearly somewhere between 1988 and 1992. That's good enough for me. We're fine.
You had mentioned, Korey, the yellow of the font, and that's definitely, again, a prominent color in this. I noticed that. I thought, the paint department really must have had a lot of yellow and red and green paint at their disposal, because the boiler scene contains a lot of those colors.
Touching back to what we were talking about earlier, where they only use 7 primary colors, and for any given color, whether it was yellow, blue, green, red, or whatever, they used that specific shade on everything for the whole film. So you're absolutely right. I mean, they must have been going ape just painting stuff. I know they repainted cars that they bought. They shot a lot of that stuff on the 30s era part of the backlot at Universal, and they had to touch things up.
Yeah, you can see that. You can see the spots in the Universal backlot that they painted,
Yeah.
It's just like certain window sills.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got the art department, the direction, and this movie I'll talk about in more detail later, but got nominated for a bunch of awards from several different organizations, and a lot of that design and coloring work was the center of what the awards were for.
Yes.
For action in the face of grave danger, the kid, whose name will be filled in when he thinks of one, is awarded this honorary detective certificate with badge.
Congratulations, pal.
The best looking officer on the force, with or without a name.
But this is just a temporary certificate till you pick a name for yourself.
What's the matter with Kid?
Nothing. This means no more jumping on the back of cars. Got it?
Now, the kid here, he is given an award for rescuing Dick Tracy. He is an honorary detective, Steve. He's a real cop and a half.
He's a real cop and a half. What do you think about that?
But he still has to pick a name.
Yeah, they got to put a name on there for him.
He's nameless. He's just Kid. Eventually, he will come up with a name that will signify the completion of his character arc, Steve.
Right.
But for now, he's just Kid, and he's kind of helping out. He's not really supposed to go on adventures, but he always seems to kind of show up or follow people, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there's one point late in the story where he does get taken to the orphanage, but then immediately gets retrieved again to rejoin with Tracy.
Yeah, at the end.
And I think Sam goes and get him. I meant to mention earlier that Sam Ketchum, who was a heavily featured character in the comics as well, as played by Seymour Castle, who was in a lot of great parts. He did a bunch of Wes Anderson's movies, too.
Frequent.
Yeah.
Now, the next, I think, major thing that happens, there's just a couple little scenes in between, but Breathless shows up at Tracy's house.
Yes.
At his place, right, Steve? And she
yes.
has a very interesting line about like a peach.
Yeah, this is one of those moments.
Yes.
Yeah, that
yes.
going to what we were talking about earlier, and Phil, I'm sure, is going to have a comment about this too. Like, it took until I was like 16 before I understood this joke. It went totally over my head as a child. And then all of a sudden, the first time I did get it, at 15 or 16 years old, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that line's in this movie.
That is insane.
Right?
What kind of ice cream did you get?
Fresh peach. Better eat it right away. It's starting to run a little.
What are you doing here?
Aren't you gonna frisk me?
Tess and the kid have gone out to get ice cream. Dick hears a knock on the door. Before he's opened it, he says, oh, did you get you got the ice cream? What flavor is it? Something like that. She goes, it's fresh peach, but you better eat it quick because it's already melting. And they're like, holy shit. It's dripping. There you go. Yeah, like, oh, wow. Okay. I'm sure my mother loved that one, but she never brought it up. So.
Damn.
I have a line I actually wrote while rewatching it. I say, Breathless Mahoney's peach line, better eat it fast, it's starting to run a little, would never make it in a Disney film today. I was reminded of Castor Troy's line, I can eat a peach for hours, from Face Off.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. John Travolta, my favorite actor. I'm just
oh,
kidding.
yeah. Greatest actor of all time.
I like to, switch their names,
Has John Travolta ever been in a good movie that wasn't Pulp Fiction?
Yeah, he just named it. Face Off.
It's true. That one is fun. We did a pod about it.
And a Phenomenon.
Right? Phenomenon. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there that would say Saturday Night Fever. Although, there's Urban Cowboy. Urban Cowboy, I think, actually is a good movie.
I'm a Grease stan. I'm a Grease guy, man. I'm a greasy boy. I like that movie. I genuinely do.
I got overexposed to that one. I got weird feelings about it.
I do want to pod on that someday. I just want to talk for 10 minutes about 35-year-old Rizzo in that,
Right?
Dr. Channing.
And how in the end they brainwash a good girl into damaging her future by running away with a complete greaser.
They fly into space.
Yeah, fly into space. That's where they're going to be real happy in space.
In upper atmosphere.
She's really dead and she's just going to heaven now.
And when they come back down, they'll have to figure out how they're going to live on his salary at the paint shop.
But this is kind of tragic, Steve, because, Breathless, she's been shoving her titties in Dick Tracy's face a lot at this point.
Right.
And at this point, he lets his guard down just slightly and she kisses him. And it happens to be at the very exact wrong moment, right, Steve?
Yeah.
It's very much Eddie Valiant getting caught with his pants down.
Right. I was just going to say, this is...
Dabbling in watercolors, Eddie?
Right. If there's such a thing as a noir trope, this is the noir trope. The detective's girlfriend's going to walk in on him getting kissed by some other woman.
By the bombshell.
Right. And God, oh Jesus, Roger Rabbit's from about the same exact point in time. In fact,
yes.
I meant to mention this. Phil, you may remember this. They ran like an 8 or 10 minute long Roger Rabbit animated short.
Oh yeah, Roller Coaster Rabbit.
Yes, ahead of this movie. They ran in the theater before the movie started.
Yes.
I loved that.
That makes perfect sense considering the time,
Yeah, absolutely.
This came out the same year, right, Phil?
1990 for Dick Tracy, and the original Who Framed Roger Rabbit, 88, but Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, 89, which also had the Roger Rabbit short Tummy Trouble attached to it.
Okay.
You're right.
Okay.
Dude, what a few years. Jesus. I feel so gifted now to have been a kid during this period. Between 85 and 95, almost every year, it was just, here's like 2. Every single year, here's 2. And they're almost all going to be good. Like, wow.
Yeah, what do kids watch nowadays? The Mr. Beast movie?
Guy, Mr. Beast, stuff about Slender Man right before they go stab each other. I don't know.
Minecraft.
I don't think that's a thing, Steve.
You not read about the Slender Man stabbings? Because that is a real thing.
It's not the phenomenon that Dick Tracy was.
No, it's true.
Up here, 88. Open the suitcase. You want to know why I called you? 5,000. Your first payment.
For what?
You work for Big Boy now. You want to make a lot of money helping him. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Give that letter to Big Boy. Tell him you found it under your door.
Who do I tell him you are?
You don't, because you never saw me. And don't try to find me. I'll call you. Make the deal.
So there's a point in this movie where this mysterious figure that we saw lurking around earlier, the no-face, faceless figure all in black, has a meeting with a piano player called Keys.
88 Keys.
Mandy Patinkin. 88 Keys. Yeah, he's so good. He's such a good actor. Fucking A, Mandy Patinkin's a talented dude.
Inigo Montoya, man.
Inigo Montoya, absolutely. God, he was in the movie version of Alien Nation. His resume is incredible. He's done a ton on Broadway.
He even did a Stephen Sondheim cover album a few years after this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, all his own songs, played the piano for himself. That dude's great.
Now, No-Face wants to take down Tracy, right, Steve? No-Face is offering some kind of plan. Now, this is like an independent figure, not mob associated, right?
No, yeah, No-Face wants to enlist 88 Keys in convincing Big Boy to let the plan happen. It's also, I think, among the first moments where we get introduced to No-Face's voice, which I wanted to mention. If you close your eyes during the moments No-Face is talking and you picture Leia in the mask in retrieving Han from Jabba's palace, it's the same voice.
Yoto.
Yes, it is the same voice. I'm convinced. They just took the effect from Jedi.
Hibernation sickness.
Where am I?
Jabba's palace.
Who are you?
Who are you?
And I can't remember
Someone who loves you. Oh, wait, let me take the helmet off.
Right?
Someone who loves you.
God, the species that wears those masks are called like the Boosh or the Bish or something like that. I can't remember. Yeah.
The Bishes. Now, that character is called Boosh.
Boosh, there you go. Yeah. But yeah, man, it's the same voice. And
then there's the Mighty Boosh.
Then Noel Gallagher's the Mighty Boosh. All right.
That's like their leader.
It's Noel Gallagher. Absolutely. It's Noel Gallagher with the long hair and the makeup and everything. And then she talks to 88 Keys. 88 Keys goes to pitch the idea to Big Boy. And Big Boy's initially not interested. Big Boy's saying, you don't even know who brought this to you. Don't bring me a plan from somebody you can't get a hold of.
And it's a plan we don't really know the details of yet, but suffice to say there is some kind of plan in the works.
Right. And along the way, in formulating what eventually becomes the plan, No-Face breaks into Tracy's apartment because she needs to be able to get his handwriting forged. He, she, whatever, Big Boy needs to get the handwriting forged. And when No-Face steals the check, this is the second moment I referenced earlier, and I'll let it go after this. But if you look at the check when it's coming out of the desk, if you pause the scene, you have to kind of pause it to be able to read the whole thing. But you can see that the check says that it was issued by Bank of the City, Homeville, USA, and is dated December 17th, 1938. So between the check and the contract, we get the double down. We're being told it's the city, it's Homeville, and the movie is taking place in December of 38.
That's one way to get around location specifics.
And they actually did think about shooting the movie at least partly in Chicago, and the primary set designer convinced them to do it on sound stages and on backlots instead, so that they could really make it look like a comic. And I think ultimately that probably was the right choice.
It definitely was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it very much contributed to the way this movie looks. It's almost like unreal. It's
right.
real, but it's unreal, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
The matte paintings, I think, do a lot of heavy lifting for it looking like a comic book panel.
Yes. Like they've used Chicago, I think, multiple times as a stand-in for parts of Gotham and Batman movies, and they always make it look great, but it's a different approach, right? In that approach, they're trying to make Gotham feel like a real place, where in this approach, it's like, this is a comic book.
This is more like Tim Burton's Gotham.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. It's very reminiscent of Mead's drawings for the backdrops in Batman 89, and yeah, I agree.
Now, Tracy's kind of on to Big Boy, and he knows that he's up to no good. So he kind of orchestrates this scenario where he can send one of his guys in and plant a bug in Club Ritz, which is like the headquarters of the mob now. And we get another montage, of course, of Dick Tracy and the cops kind of putting a stop to the crime that Big Boy's committing.
Essentially, he has created a area for a microphone to be placed overhead a lamp in Big Boy's, I guess, main office area. And this is being listened to by their head chief of, I forget the proper term for this, but essentially for bugging devices and wiretapping, the character of Bug Bailey, played by a great character actor, Michael J. Pollard, who was actually in a film with Warren Beatty back in the late 60s, the classic film Bonnie and Clyde. He plays Bug Bailey, who listens to all the places Big Boy is sending his goons.
I think John C. Reilly saw this movie at a young age and said, that is literally me.
Very good. Tracy gets word of the addresses by way of Bug's two-way radio, and we get another one of your favorites, Korey, montages of him capturing these guys and various radio reporters talking about it. And one thing I noticed during the montage, one of the radio reporters is played by John Machida Jr., also known as the Micro Machine Man.
Oh, hell yeah. That guy's a legend.
If you remember the fast-talking guy who did commercials for Micro Machine and FedEx, and I have to say, they sadly missed a golden opportunity to actually do the scene with him speaking instead of having Madonna's song going over the dialogue, because you have to wonder what the Micro Machine Man would have sounded like telling about what Dick Tracy's been up to in the world of crime.
He's got some very small cars, and he's playing around with a track.
It would have sounded like an auction.
Yes.
Here's a montage that I do want to talk about a little bit because it has some good and bad, I think. With this particular montage, with like the crime fighting being done by Dick Tracy, I kind of feel like Warren Beatty made this whole movie around this montage.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually like the montage for the most part, but there is one moment in it that's probably the only moment in the movie that from childhood forward, I've always thought was kind of stupid, where for some reason there's a group of like 8 or 10 guys all standing in front of Tracy together, just waiting to be hit, and somehow he manages to punch them all over with one swing.
The bowling ball effect.
Yeah. I get it. I get what he was going for, but that one little snippet I always thought was like, that's the one part of the movie that's kind of dumb, I think.
I think it fits this movie, though. I gotta say. I think it works.
Funny. All right, opinions will differ. Phil, what were you going to say about it?
I was going to say it's funny you mentioned that that's the one that stuck out as you as kind of unnecessary, because in the Dick Tracy Zooms In special, Dick Tracy, the character, refers to that as being like, that doesn't happen when you fight crime. One punch does not take out 8 goons.
It's right. You know what? You're right about that.
But like this montage is like a lot of like the action of this movie is kind of condensed to this one montage. I think one of the problems with it is that it's like this slow lounge music to this like essentially action-packed scene.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
All this action's hitting you. Boom, boom. It's like Tommy gun drive-bys. Like you got like great cinematography with like shadow figures like boxing, right? Like Dick Tracy, his very distinct shadow like punches a guy out. And like all this like really cool like action stuff. Like I said, it's like it's either like a big trailer moment or like the movie. I feel like Warren Beatty really wanted to make this, like these action scenes, but the music just does not fit it.
No.
132. Broad Street.
132 Broad Street. Right, Bug.
The challenge delights me. The more you resist, babe, the more it
Dick Tracy is struck tonight, and he is struck hard.
No
right
one I kissed, babe, ever fights me again.
It doesn't account for the music, but I think that grew a little bit out of Katzenberg wanting Beatty to trim something like 30 or 45 minutes out of the movie. I think you're right. I think this stuff was supposed to be more of a focus, and there would have been more of it that they needed to squeeze down. I've got a very similar running discussion about something like this with a friend of mine, and I'm not going to take the discussion too far this direction, but in anime, Japanese production companies tend to choose a lot of jazzy and poppy type music for a lot of anime, even over violent scenes. And I think in a lot of cases it's meant to be a contrast and it's meant to seem kind of strange, but I I often very much like it, and this other friend of mine very much hates it. And I've got to run into, he's actually a proponent for the idea that these films should be rescored for American audiences, and I don't like that take, but it's a difference of opinion. Yeah.
I think there's some great shots in this montage.
Yeah.
I think I do like the punching moment, but another one I like is just Dick Tracy in his classic yellow outfit, holding the Tommy gun, walking towards the camera, looking down the barrel of the lens, you know?
That is a great end shot.
It's like being dissolved with other things happening at the same time. So there's kind of like this like overlay on top of it.
Right.
I just love that.
No, me too. I agree. That's kind of like, you get those moments. It's like there's all those shots of Batman standing on rooftops with the cape blowing. You get these kind of icon moments or image. I've seen a few different drawings of Superman where Clark is floating, but he's only 4 or 5 feet off the ground so that he can look down at someone below him. It's just one of those icon moments, Yeah.
No, I agree with you in that the way that whole scene is edited at the end with that slow fade into him walking to the camera. I think it ends it perfectly, but one thing I noticed when it came to the actual song being used, it does actually tie in. Again, editing aside from Katzenberg's request, but the song itself is called What Can You Lose? And when 88 Keys makes his pitch from the No-Face character to Big Boy, he ends it by chuckling in and saying to him, hey, what can you lose? So, essentially this ties into that. It's one of those, you really have to have listened to the dialogue from previous scenes, but ending it with that and him just walking towards the camera with the gun. Yes, I'd say that's probably one of the better edited pieces of the film.
I agree.
I think there's something like really weird and heavy-handed about movies when they have like a song with lyrics that go with what's happening in the movie.
It could definitely be way too on the nose.
The most obvious one that I've seen a lot is like if there's a car wash in a movie and then the fucking car wash song. It's like, yeah. Uh-huh. What movie? There was a movie that was really bad. It was the first Suicide Squad movie where like every song was like related to like what was going on, like the lyrics match, and not necessarily the music in all cases.
That makes it even more offensive to me. And I agree with you; it's too on the nose. But then it's even worse when, the lyric superficially sounds like it lines up, but then you realize that song's about something completely different. I've heard the song "Paint It Black" by the Rolling Stones. It's been used in advertisements for black clothing and black home goods, and it's like this. It's not what this song is about.
No, I think the best use was the ending for The Devil's Advocate.
Yes.
So we have that whole fighting crime montage. There's just some pretty cool stuff in there. Generally speaking, I think I like it. I think I might make my own edit of it though with different music.
Nice.
See.
I like that quite a bit. A film teacher of mine showed us samples of something like that where the point of the lesson really was to show you how much specific music choice can affect the scene, but they showed us almost a montage of its own clips of famous scenes that had been re-edited with different music, and it really drove home how much that can change it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now back at the club, Big Boy does eventually discover that they're bugged.
Yes.
And he uses this to his advantage, Steve, right?
Oh, yeah. So once he realizes they've been bugged, and his reaction is very comical.
Everything about this guy is pretty comical.
Yeah,
he's
way over the top.
He's pretty funny. I think he has to grow on you a little bit.
He does, I agree, but Pacino really hammed it, but in a way that I really like. I think it's great for a pulpy comic like this.
Yeah, he's chewing, man.
Right? He's chewing. He's eating that scene. And once he realizes they're bugged, rather than just kill whoever's bugging them, they decide to use it as an opportunity to start feeding fake information to the police.
Exactly. So they set up kind of a trap.
Okay, Freddy. Get down to the South Side warehouse. Big payoff.
They do. Basically, Big Boy picks up the phone after discovering the hidden microphone, pretends to have a conversation with a henchman to tell him to get down to the South Side warehouse. A big payoff is coming up. So Bug tells Tracy that's where they need to get to. We see the South Side warehouse is the same place where earlier in the film Lips Manless got the cement bath. And as Tracy arrives, we see it is actually Bug Bailey now tied up in the container to be given the cement bath by two of Pacino's, or rather Big Boy's henchmen, Pruneface and Influence. That's a character you don't really find out a whole lot about, but his character apparently was meant to basically influence people by his piercing red eyes. But I digress on that. We see Bug being dumped on by the cement, and Tracy decides he's going to get in there somehow. So he devises this, and I found out this was very intricate when I was reading about the making of the film. He puts his hat and trench coat on a makeshift metal bucket and broom, and thinking they see Tracy, both Pruneface and Influence unleash their Tommy guns on him, and as they approach it, they see it's a dummy. But apparently, when they were making this film, this little intricate dummy diversion took like weeks to prepare, because it had to be basically set up with the what do you call those things for showing people getting hit with bullets? Bigs or something?
Squibs?
Squibs, thank you. So it had to be equipped with squibs to bounce the bullets off and ricochet, and actually have holes torn through the clothing and the hat. And it actually works in the finished film, even though it's maybe like a 5-second shot, but they spent weeks actually preparing how to make this happen. So, being fooled, Tracy takes this opportunity to undo the box and get Bug out of there, managing somehow in this process to get completely covered in cement himself. And as Pruneface realizes they've been had, he turns on Tracy, about to shoot him with the Tommy gun, but out of the shadows, literally, the No-Face character ends up killing Pruneface with a gun, and before Influence can figure out what's happened, he bolts. Tracy turns to see where the gunshot came from, and though he's covered in cement, he just barely makes out the figure of the No-Face character as it leaves the scene, leaving Tracy to wonder, who the hell just saved me?
That's right. Intervention by the No-Face, mysterious figure.
Yes.
And so Tracy does not succumb to this trap that's set up. He is not killed, but this really does set off Big Boy, who now officially wants this dude dead. And he's willing to kind of take some steps that he wasn't willing to take earlier to do so. And there's a couple like little things that happen in between this and I think what is the next major point in this movie. But one of them, which is a scene I did not enjoy, Steve, is a piano duet ballad with
but Mandy Patinkin and Madonna with 88 Keys and Breathless.
Yeah.
Once the words are spoken, something may be broken. Still you love her. What can you lose? But what if she goes? At least now you have part of her. What if she had to choose? Leave it alone. Hold it all in. Better upon, don't even begin.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
You like this movie a lot, Steve. What are your thoughts when a scene like this comes up? Do you enjoy it? Do you tolerate it? Like, where do you stand on it?
It's a weird one in this specific instance, because typically speaking, I understand the intent, but I do often find those scenes to be kind of drudgy and unnecessary, and I'm often not interested. In this particular instance, I don't really feel like I needed it to be in the movie. In fact, considering what we've talked about, I almost would have rather that Beatty cut this part and keep some of the more action material in it. But I think the performance itself is very good, and Patinkin's very good, and at least I find it engaging in that level. Like it's a really well-produced scene. But I would agree that, like, I don't think it actually does all that much to underline the character development in this context. I think it would have needed to be a much larger, longer movie in order for that scene to have the intended impact. And it probably is one of the few scenes in the film that I don't have really strongly negative feelings about it, but I wouldn't miss it if it weren't there. I would really like to see, I think Beatty said they got a 2-hour and 15-minute long assembly cut of this film put together before they had to keep going with it. I would like to see whether or not that affects the way the scene plays out.
And that he has gone on record of saying he is the only person who actually owns the original director's cut.
Right. And what's amazing to me, and I think Phil will appreciate this, is this film has never gotten a very good home video release. I mean, the Blu-ray looks okay in terms of image quality, but the Laserdiscs had nothing on them.
Yeah.
The DVD had nothing on it. The Blu-ray's got nothing on it. Even that Behind the Badge TV special's not there. Like, what are you guys doing?
It's basically a $4.99 and under bargain bin DVD you find at a truck stop.
Yeah, exactly. I think I paid $8 for the Blu-ray because it's in high definition.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Now, Breathless later on approaches Dick Tracy once again. Like they're at the docks, somewhere isolated.
Yes.
And this time she approaches him like sincerely, as opposed to like the seduction measures that she was taking before this scene, Steve.
It's no longer cat and mouse.
She wants Dick Tracy to admit his feelings for her, but he won't do that. You know, obviously he's attracted to her. Madonna is a good-looking woman in this movie, but Dick Tracy is a man of honor.
You want me, don't you?
You're right, I do want you. In court, where you can tell the truth.
You're lying. You want me the same way that I want you. You want me to take a risk? I want you to take a risk.
I told you I'd protect you if you testify.
Protect me?
It's my job.
I don't know about your job. I only know what I feel. If you can't tell me how you feel, Tracy, then I can't trust you.
Wait a minute. What do you want me to admit? That I think about you? Okay, I admit it. Testify.
You want my testimony? Tell me you want me. If you do that, I'll do anything you say.
Yeah, well, and I think you can tell from his perspective that the lust is potentially there, but nothing much else. That, like, his real feelings are for Tess.
He thinks she's just some cheap floozy.
I don't, I get you're being funny. I don't think it's quite that. I think that he recognizes that there's more to her as a person, and he really is attracted to her, but I think between the two, like, Tess is the one he actually loves, I guess is the way I'd put it.
There is a lot more to her.
Yeah.
Which we'll see later.
Right.
A whole other side, Steve.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, No Face orchestrates a frame job. Phil, what happens here?
So we get earlier in the film an introduction to the character of District Attorney Fletcher, played by Dick Van Dyke, who is apparently on the take with Big Boy Caprice. There's a scene that takes place, I believe, in a graveyard where Big Boy and a bunch of his henchmen are just marching, and Big Boy is addressing at great length an unseen figure in which he basically says, "You are not out until I say you're out. When you are dead, then you are out." And as they get into their car, we see the figure finally turn his head, and it's revealed to be District Attorney Fletcher.
Who I want to add looks like Alfred from 89 Batman. He looks like Michael Gough in some of his scenes.
Absolutely. If Alfred smoked, he'd probably smoke the same kind, with the long extended holder.
The one little bit about that scene that doesn't make any sense to me is that Big Boy and the guys he's got with him are walking toward the camera from having been in the graveyard. And then when they finish addressing the commissioner, they walk past him toward the camera to get to their car. So the implication is that they've been in the graveyard doing something, and that they're on their way out of the graveyard to it's like, what were they doing in the graveyard?
Yeah, maybe trying to send him a message.
Right, maybe. That could be true.
So District Attorney Fletcher is on the take with Big Boy, and we do find out in an earlier scene that he is, I believe, running for mayor, and he can't have his campaign besmirched, even by Tracy trying to put Big Boy away for good and have him off the street forever. So Big Boy, again, with having the district attorney on the take, ends up becoming, or rather the district attorney ends up getting a letter written apparently by Dick Tracy, who, as we recall, we were trying to get his writing forged. And this is the big payoff with that. where a forger manages to write a letter to the district attorney saying from Tracy that he has evidence which will, as he puts it, destroy him, and asks him to meet him at a nearby motel to discuss matters further.
Yes, and then send the letter to District Attorney Fletcher.
Can you do it?
Oh, I can do anyone's handwriting.
All right, Tracy's handwriting, write this. District Attorney Fletcher, I have evidence that will destroy you. Bring $10,000 to room 429 Midway Hotel.
Bring $10,000 to room 429 Midway Hotel.
So essentially, midway between District Attorney Fletcher getting this message, Tess Truart has decided she's going to move away from Tracy for a few days because she feels that he is more focused on his work and possibly having something going on with Breathless Mahoney. So we find out that she's gone to stay with her mother for a while until further notice. In the meantime, Tracy gets notification from supposedly Tess Truart saying, we need to talk more about this, meet me at the greenhouse. So Tracy goes to the greenhouse looking for Tess, who, unbeknownst to us, is still with her mother. And while he's there, a trap has been set up where poison gas is being sprayed through the flowers on display to knock him out. While Tracy's knocked out, the No-Face character takes his clothing and puts it on himself and basically goes to the motel where District Attorney Fletcher is waiting to meet with Tracy to hear about this evidence. When District Attorney hears a knock on the door and asks Tracy to come in and find out what's going on, the No-Face character actually kills District Attorney Fletcher with 2 shots of a pistol, rendering him out for the count, and then does the old comic switcheroo where they put the actual Dick Tracy in the room, put a pistol in his hand, and 88 Keys, who's also working with the No-Face character, stages a whole conversation loudly by shouting, "You can't blackmail me, Dick Tracy. I'll see you in hell before I do anything else," and ends up making it appear that, yes, Dick Tracy himself has killed District Attorney Fletcher. And after the motel manager overhears all this, calling the police arrive. Tracy regains consciousness after having some ammonia thrown under his nose by the No-Face character, who have now left the scene along with 88 Keys. Tracy awakens completely out of sorts and confused, but now the police have him at gunpoint and Tracy is going to jail.
Things aren't looking good for Dick Tracy now, Steve. He was set up. It was a frame job.
It was a frame job, and he gets to go spend some time sitting in jail. But on the upside, during this period, the kid picks a name for himself.
The kid does pick a name. I wonder what name he would possibly choose, Steve.
What name would he choose aside from Dick Tracy Jr.? No, why he would choose for his actual first name to be Dick is something I don't get.
Instead of Richard,
yeah,
perhaps?
Be Richard. Be Richard. You can be called Dick for short if you want, but at least give yourself the opportunity to defer to being Richard.
Nope. This kid is officially Little Dick.
Little Dick.
I was about to say, he's Little Dick.
You shall be known henceforth as Little Dick.
Hey, you guys seen Little Dick anywhere?
Is that why people used to call me that when I was a kid? Because of this, they were referencing this movie?
Yeah, absolutely. That's, when he grows up and turns into a criminal, that's going to be his bad guy name. You got Big Face and Prune Face and Little Face and Little Dick.
Little Dick.
Needle Dick! Needle Dick!
He's a micro version of Dick Tracy. That's what we call him.
Oh, so he's Micro Dick.
So Dick Tracy's in jail. The kid's in the orphanage. Tess is kidnapped. Things are not good for our family. But Dick Tracy has some pals on the force that they kind of bust him out for the night. Dick Tracy's going to be transported. But his friends say, you're gonna be transported, let's say, for the next 8 hours or so. They're basically saying, let's handle this situation.
Yeah, they comment that the trip to where he's supposed to be going is meant to be a multiple-hour drive, and I always thought the implication was supposed to be it would take several hours for anyone to realize that you should have been there. Like, they're supposed to be waiting for you anyway, so.
He's essentially busted out, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say, too, though, while he's in jail, the mob is thriving.
Yes.
And there's, of course, another montage while this is happening. This movie loves their goddamn montages.
They do.
And it's, of course, to more Madonna music, but Madonna's doing that, like, chorus line style performance, right?
Yeah.
So she's up there doing her little, like, hand-wavy song and dance.
Right.
Back in business.
And then there's, like, the mob thriving. But the cinematography of, like, all the stuff they're showing looks fantastic. Gotta say that.
Yeah, and that feeds into what I was mentioning earlier, where they hired professional Broadway dancers to be her backup, but they intentionally made them dance. Like, the way they set up the bit and in the way they rehearsed it, the dancers were supposed to look like they were kind of professional rejects, like they'd never be able to get a job in a real theater.
There's a lot of neat stuff, though, that happens throughout this montage with, like, the criminals, like, their whole plan is basically extortion.
Yeah.
Extort all the local businesses or whatever. So they do that, but there's just neat stuff, like them being viewed through, like, the window, so you just see, like, the shadow. Like, they walk into the building, they pull a gun on the store owner, stuff like that, throwing the money around. Like, it's just pretty neat, like, the way it looks. Again, I think it's slightly pulled back by the music, which I don't love during this moment. But anyway, pretty cool scene.
There's also a great hokey moment where Big Boy gets up on a table and starts juggling dice.
Right.
Now, Dick Tracy's out. He's back on the job. Super cop, Dick Tracy. He takes in Mumbles again, right, Steve?
Yes.
Who, it turns out, can speak pretty normally.
Yeah, it turns out the mumbling's kind of a bit, and when he wants to, he can speak normally. And Dick shows Mumbles that what everyone has thought up till now is a polar bear-shaped water cooler actually had a recording device built into it. Mm-hmm. And that Mumbles' original interrogation had been recorded, and it sounds at first like it's just him mumbling. But when Tracy uses two fingers to slow down the speed of the tape, you can hear Mumbles saying, "Big Boy did it," in regards to who killed Lips Manless. And in that moment, when Mumbles realizes that he's busted one way or the other, he suddenly speaks normally to Dick.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Let's take this and plan for Big Boy.
Wait. Wait.
88 keys. The piano man. Set you up. Big Boy paid him to get you out of the way.
Did you happen to catch the location of the spigot on that polar bear?
Oh, yeah. Right, it's the dick.
Yes.
It is the dick.
This movie loves its dick.
I just noticed that in my recent rewatch, and I was like, wow, it took me this long to figure that out.
Right? I'm sure it took me years to notice. I definitely didn't when I was a kid.
So back at the club, all the mobsters are celebrating their New Year's Eve party, and Dick Tracy's on his way, right? He's got the intel he needs from Mumbles to take in Big Boy.
Yeah.
Now, Steve, Big Boy has this party going on. Dick Tracy's infiltrating. Tess is in the attic, unbeknownst to Big Boy. What kind of starts to happen here? Something about a seesaw?
Oh my god, yeah. Okay, this is one of those other few moments in the movie that I think is fun, but I'll pick on a little.
Yeah.
It's the Wile E. Coyote moment.
Right? Big Boy and his goons discover Tess tied up in this room on the second floor of this building, and Big Boy goes into meltdown mode because he realizes that kidnapping's he keeps getting told, Tracy keeps saying kidnapping's a federal charge, but he realizes it's a federal charge and he's going to be in deep shit, and for some reason, rather than just untying Tess, letting her go and insisting that he was innocent, he decides he's just going to take her with him. So he
actually does kidnap her.
He does eventually
as
kidnap
a solution
her.
to the kidnapping
Yeah, exactly.
problem.
I'm not guilty of kidnapping, I'm going to prove it by kidnapping you. It does not make a lot of sense. But
you're right, he is unraveling here.
He's unraveling, he goes nuts.
Hey, say I kidnapped you. I didn't kidnap you, but I'm kidnapping you now. Does life imitate art? So many questions, so few answers. What a way to usher in the new year.
And Tracy's up on the roof watching through a skylight, and Big Boy realizes it, so he rushes Tess out of the room, locks the door behind himself. Tracy tries to go after them by jumping down through the skylight and then realizing he can't get out of this locked room.
It's a real amateur move.
Right?
He's like, oh shit.
But he
played himself.
Right? He played himself, like DJ Khaled. But, he realizes that he can set up a sort of makeshift seesaw with some lumber and a trash can. And he
Some
has
quick calculations in his notepad.
Yeah, just a little calculus right there, freehand. And then he has the other cop jump down through the skylight from the roof to then fling him onto the roof. And then he leaves this other cop in this locked room while he runs off to go after Big Boy.
Doesn't even say goodbye.
No.
I'll get you. I'll come back for you.
But he does manage to get off this roof without slamming his face into the lamppost, which is nice. Nice for him.
The song that's playing while this is happening, that's like intercut with, I think is probably the worst Madonna song in the movie.
More.
Yeah, well, it's really one of Stephen Sondheim's songs, but yeah, I agree with you.
Them coppers are never gonna take me alive. We're making a break for it.
One is fun, why not two? And if you like two, might as well have four. And if you like four, why not a few? Why not a slew more?
You shut the fuck up, get your teeth straight.
But this is kind of where things are like coming to a head here. We talked about Big Boy. He takes Tess and he escapes. And there's kind of this big shootout as a lot of the mobsters are trying to escape the club, right? It's kind of one of the bigger action scenes of the movie, I think. There's some explosions, cars blowing up.
Yeah, I think this is really the biggest one of all, and it turns into a massive shootout that involves cars screaming across the road and people trying to hit Tracy with the car, and he's got a Tommy gun and is going to town. One of the cars explodes in the background behind him. And
that's pretty cool, I gotta say.
That is awesome. I love that. Right, I think this action sequence is great. Funniest part is Beatty got asked about filming that scene and how many takes did it take you and did you flinch? And Beatty actually said, I think they got it in one take or two. And Beatty said that he had earplugs in to protect him from the sound of the explosions and the prop guns. And the earplugs were doing such a good job. And the Tommy gun he was firing was so loud that he didn't realize that the car explosion behind him was even happening. And he knew it was going to happen, but he didn't know in the moment. So the reason he didn't flinch is because he didn't even realize it was happening. And it's great. It's perfect. It's just Dick being a badass. Badass Dick walking around through the street.
This is where my favorite henchman, Flat Top, gets smoked.
Yeah, he finally gets burnt.
Is it Flathead or Flat Top?
I believe it's Flat Top, because Flat Top is also the name of a haircut of that style, and I think that's the joke.
But that dude, man, great look.
He does not go down easily.
Yes.
Damn shame he gets killed right here.
He is one of the, intentionally so obviously, but he is one of the core fun characters in that movie. The look is great. William Forsythe's face is perfect for it.
He's kind of like one of those old-timey mobsters. He's like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, he does that, actually, when he starts shooting the Tommy gun at Tracy. Like, he screams, like...
Right.
I'll get you, coppers.
Right. I don't know if he really was or not, but I have to believe that Chester Gould based that character on James Cagney. Like, it just seems too good to not be,
You dirty rat. You killed
dirty
my
rat.
brother. Woo! From Ninja Turtles?
Yes, exactly.
That must be Splinter's favorite.
Yeah, the impression from Ninja Turtles is the actor. That's
okay. So there's kind of like chaos ensuing in front of the club, but Big Boy escapes that whole situation. He's not in the middle of that shootout. He like runs away through a tunnel, right, Phil? He's like...
Yeah, it's funny because he goes out with Tess in his clutches in the back of a car, and he instigates the whole brawl in the streets by saying, all right, on the sound of my horn, go. And you think he's going to be a part of this because after all, he's in the car. But then, after seeing, I guess, everything just take a turn for the worse, he gets out of the car and he goes through this area of the Club Ritz, which I think is like a liquor closet or something, or a wine cellar type thing.
Yeah, I think it may have supposed to have been a speakeasy, I think, at one point. Yeah.
So he gets in there and he takes this giant block of wood and hammers it between the shelves and the doors, so I guess Tracy will be able to follow him. And then somehow attached to the club is like this little small hidden railway with a little flat cart that he leans down on with Tess basically underneath him and pushes his legs to get them going, like, I guess, underground to some unknown exit way that's near a drawbridge for him to escape being caught by Tracy.
And the only way to do it is to lay on top of Tess.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I think that's supposed to have been a speakeasy. They had secret ways of moving liquor around and getting it to the bars, and I think the idea was that was originally supposed to be a car to move liquor between the speakeasy and a storage room.
That makes sense now.
Right.
Like, I don't know the whole story of speakeasies back in, like, Prohibition era, but yeah, that makes so much more sense now.
I know that they used to do that kind of thing, well, in multiple places, but I know for a fact that here in Los Angeles, there was actually a block or so where they built makeshift tunnels between buildings and underground so they could move the liquor around through there. And so, yeah.
He took her through there, the wine room. Tracy, you don't trust me. Tracy, good luck.
Big Boy has escaped with Tess, and Tracy moves in after the street brawl, and Breathless, for the first time, really lets her guard down, and when Tracy spots her, she points towards the area where Big Boy went, and he says he took her that way, basically saying he took Tess that way, and Tracy goes the opposite direction, and Breathless looks at him and says, "You don't trust me, do you?" And then he goes the original way he told her, trusting her, and she says one last thing to him, which is Tracy, and you can tell that's that classic look of the forming of the lips, as if she's going to say, "I love you," but instead she says, "Good luck," and he takes just a second and says to her, "Thanks," and then he is off and running.
That's right. He pursues down to the city area. There's a bridge. And I think they make their way into some kind of, like, mechanical room where the bridge is controlled.
It's a drawbridge. It's the mechanical area that makes the bridge move up and down, yeah.
The gear room, yeah.
And, of course, there's some very big comical gears in there, you know?
It looks great.
Very, like, fitting in this movie.
Yes.
They had those gears on the backlot, actually. Those gears existed for years at the MGM Studios backlot tour. And it was so funny. I just remember seeing it on the tram, these random gears, and it took the tram operator to verbally say, "And if you look over to your right, you'll see those comically oversized gears. Those were used in our 1990 film Dick Tracy."
Very nice. Yeah, so this is kind of the setting where we're going to be wrapping up this final showdown. It's in this room, and Tess gets tied to one of the gears by Big Boy.
The old lady on the railroad tracks bit.
Now, Big Boy is slipping deeper into his anxiety, and he's getting more and more philosophically unhinged.
Yes.
Right, Steve? Like, he's really embracing this, like, philosophical mentality, but it is, like, fractured. It's very hard to describe. He's just a man losing his grip.
A woman! I've been humiliated by a woman! The way I see it, and Plato agrees with me, is that there is what is, and then there is what we would like it to be. Well, that's not important. What's important is the future. It's planning ahead. A man without a plan is not a man. Nietzsche. Wait a minute. Wait. I'm having a thought. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I'm gonna have a thought. It's coming. It's gone.
Yeah, he really is just losing his shit at this point, and I think it seems to me he's almost just like talking to talk while he fills time to figure out what he's going to do about this.
Yeah, it's almost like the more he speaks, the more he's like assured that he's going to end up being okay out of this situation.
Right.
He's like, I have a thought. Hold on.
I was about to say, that's one of my personal favorite lines. I'm having a thought. It's coming. It's coming. It's
gone. He's definitely the opposite end of the mobster spectrum from Michael Corleone.
Now, of course, Dick Tracy, our hero, does catch up with them in this situation. And there's a little bit of a showdown, right, Phil?
Yeah, so he comes in and Big Boy is adamant about saying, I did not kidnap this woman. Someone's trying to frame me. Let's make a deal. Tess urges him not to do it, and Big Boy says, if we don't, I'm going to let those gears do their thing and crush her head like a watermelon. Well, Tracy, who has a gun on him, is being told by Big Boy to just put the gun down and we'll talk. So he throws the gun down, and he slowly starts to approach Big Boy. But, unbeknownst to them, once again, there's someone else in the picture, and that is the No-Face character.
Grab it, Big Boy. Get your hands up, Tracy. Don't move, either one of you. I outsmarted you, Big Boy. I knew you'd panic. I brought you down with kidnapping. The only crime you didn't commit.
Whoever you are, I know we can make a deal.
A deal? I'm making my deal with Tracy. Tracy, with Big Boy out of the way, we can own this town. Pick up that pipe and kill him. Pick it up.
That's right. No Face has the drop on these two.
Right.
And it seems like, there's kind of no way out, but Dick Tracy has backup, right? He's got Robin.
Right?
Like Robin shows up.
Little Dick.
And takes out No Face from behind. Kind of just like, a distraction mostly, but enough for the power dynamic in this scene to shift.
Right.
Yes. We find out actually No-Face was going to turn the gun on Dick Tracy. No-Face had a gun in their hand. They were originally threatening Big Boy with it, but then was going to shoot Tracy if Tracy didn't agree to the plan that No-Face had. So as Tracy starts to approach No-Face, No-Face tries to pull the trigger, but they can't, and it's in that time where Little Dick rushes them from behind and gives Big Boy the chance to shoot No-Face.
No-Face is a real sick bastard.
Right.
He says, pick up that piece of lead and beat Big Boy to death with it.
Yeah.
Tracy's like, what the fuck? You sick fuck.
And it's occurring to me, not only did Big Boy have a very Joker-esque meeting with his mob friends, he actually dies in pretty much exactly the same way the Joker did in Batman 89.
I was thinking about Joker's like main henchman. Do you remember that henchman? Not Bob.
I was going to say Bob.
But like the henchman that like beats the shit out of Batman in the tower.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like that dude like is like as tough as Batman, and Batman struggles with him, and then he tosses him down that shaft.
Right, exactly. Yes. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Dick Tracy murders Big Boy.
He does, absolutely.
He murders this man.
Look, it's the 30s. That's how we deal with these people.
He's not the kind of hero that's above doing that.
Right.
No.
And he's not the kind of guy that like lives with regret afterwards. I think he gets over it pretty quick. But before Big Boy goes down, Big Boy does shoot No-Face.
Yes.
Now, when we see No-Face up close, it's just a mask, Steve.
This lumpy mask with hair on top.
It's got funny little nostrils in it.
Yeah, it's a weird flesh mask.
Right? It's like, what are you looking through with this thing on?
Steve, so what happens during the unmasking? What's the big reveal of this No-Face person?
Are you guys ready for this? No-Face is Breathless Mahoney.
What? A woman?
A woman!
Oh, that's woke.
Yeah, this movie was way ahead of the woke curve. Women can be bad guys? Are you kidding me? Everyone knows that sociopaths are always men.
White men.
White men, of course. All right.
So No-Face is Mahoney, who was shot, grievously injured, Steve.
She is dying. but it gives her and Dick, Big Dick, a moment to have one last little exchange with each other.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right, Tracy. I couldn't pull the trigger.
It was a good plan, Breathless. You almost pulled it off. The city would have been yours.
Yeah, you were my only mistake. Tell me the truth. Could it ever have happened between us?
Three things stuck out for me. I'll never forget about this. There was, if you recall up to now, this entire PG rated film has not really contained a single line of profanity. But in the original materials,
Other than the word dick.
pretty much,
All right.
other than the publications of the comic adaptation and the paperback novelization, there was to be one line that was uttered by Dick Tracy where Breathless asked him, "Tell me, Tracy, could it ever have happened between us?" And he was to have said the line, "It came damn close." And that line was not included in the final film. That's number one. Number two, I found out when reading the original paperback novelization, the no face character, or rather the blank, is just the blank. It does not turn out to be Breathless Mahoney. So, somewhere between the writing of the script and the filming, there was to be an actual separation between No Face and Breathless Mahoney.
The guy that they hired to write the novel had a bunch of ideas that didn't line up with the screenplay they were using at the moment that he got hired, and there were apparently quite a few arguments between him and producers about changes he was making. The weird thing is it went reverse as well. Beatty and somebody he hired substantially rewrote the script before they started shooting and then lost in arbitration with the Writers Guild so that the original screenwriter's name stayed in the credits even though the script wasn't really theirs anymore.
Yeah.
And during the rewriting process, Beatty actually took some of that author's ideas that he had come up with for the book and made them part of the movie.
Yeah. The third thing I can tell you about that is, and it's one of those things where I remember there used to be this book series called Film Floods. It was an actual published series of books showing mistakes made in films. And I read one of them that contained a mistake list from Dick Tracy, and one of the big ones that actually used a picture to illustrate, and you can clearly see it in the final shot when Breathless and Dick Tracy kiss one last time. There is a very prominent string of drool between their lips.
Ew.
Great.
Glimmering in the night.
Yeah, they do have one final kiss goodbye before Mahoney kind of succumbs to her wounds and dies.
Yes, so she, of course, as only Madonna can, kisses Dick, and then her head just goes back as Madonna would typically, and Dick lays her down in the gear works area, comes outside to find his true love, Tess, waiting for him as New Year's Eve fireworks go off around them in a beautifully depicted, I guess that's a combination matte painting and a little bit of digital effect. And then we segue back into the diner, Mike's Diner, where the family unit is now complete.
Now, you were talking about the ending there, Phil.
Yes.
And I think the movie personally should have ended when Dick Tracy embraced Tess on the bridge.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that should have been where the credits rolled. It did go into the next part, which you touched on, which is them in the diner. And I guess there's something there, but I don't think it's wholly necessary. I think with the fireworks, that should have been it.
You know, if you think about it, it's essentially trying to set up a sequel. It's that last post scene after everything's all cleaned up, wrapped up. where they're going to say, hey, let's give Junior his own watch and he'll join me in
Yeah.
these adventures now. And in the sequel, the kid is actually a crime fighter too. And it's like, no.
It's like Daisy shows up and is like, Mario, Luigi, we need you to come back.
Oh my God, you're right.
Take me back to a flashback of seeing that movie in the theater where I actually declared to my dad afterwards that was the worst movie I've ever seen.
Good taste, Phil.
Thank you.
People love that fucking movie, dude. It's so weird.
It's so strange.
Yeah. So you're right. There's the diner scene, and Dick Tracy Jr. is officially on the team. He's got the most advanced technology in the world on his wrists now, along with Dick Tracy. Cell phone technology, Steve.
The original smartwatch.
Yeah,
There you go.
He's gonna be playing games on that shit. He's gonna be downloading. He's gonna be playing Snake on that bitch.
Little Dick, would you quit playing Angry Birds on your fucking watch?
That kid's going to invent Tetris.
He's got fucking Candy Crush on there. The original iPad kid.
Oh, God.
So yeah, I guess the setup there, Phil, is that they're on to their next adventure, you know?
Exactly. Plus, I mean, again, it's the romance aspect of it as well. It's the opportunity for Tracy to repeat a piece of dialogue that we've already heard where he says, well, Tess, I've been thinking. About what? Well, you living alone. Well, I like living alone. Yes, I like living
Right.
alone too. But maybe we should do something about that. And he, of course, doesn't directly propose, but of course, as he leaves, he reaches into his trench coat and throws her a box, which turns out to be an engagement ring. And she smiles. Clearly, she'll marry him. Doesn't say yes. But also, he at the same time doesn't say he's going to take a desk job to make her happy. So, in the end, you got to wonder what was more important to her, him taking a desk job or proposing?
Right.
He also cheated on her twice.
That's right. He ate that peach and found out.
Dick Tracy could eat a peach for hours, So yeah, the adventure continues with Dick Tracy. In the sequel, we'll see him have a fascinating Zoom meeting, which is exactly the setting I've always wanted to see in a Dick Tracy
Yeah, it's
feature.
very fitting for Dick Tracy's Zoom meeting.
A Zoom. He was 50 years old in 1938. He's alive nowadays with the Zoom technology. He still uses the outdated watch, I bet.
Oh, man. No, he's upgraded to one of those Boost mobile phones from 25 years ago that had the radio built in.
Dick Tracy's all like out of date now. He's on a fucking Zoom meeting. So much for it being a period piece. Anyway, That's Dick Tracy. Very interesting film, fascinating in its visuals. But before I start getting into stuff that's going to be in my rating, let's talk about final thoughts.
Oh,
Steve,
absolutely.
do you have final thoughts?
No real final thoughts in regards to story stuff. Just a couple, and I will compress this down to almost nothing. A couple of quick notes. This was the last film to use something called the sodium vapor process. Anyone who's interested in film tech should look this up. It's fascinating. It originated in the 50s. It's an alternative to blue screen and was actually better than blue screen in some ways, but this is the last movie that used it. It was also used on several other movies, including Mary Poppins, which Dick Van Dyke was in. The film did not actually get any real sequels, but there were 3 sequel novels written to it. I was going to go into this in more detail, but suffice it to say, for anyone who's interested enough, look up the comics. There are modern comics. There are multiple different publishers that publish Dick Tracy material, and a lot of it is really good. It was also the first film to use digital sound of any kind. It predated Dolby Digital by a few years. But the system it used for digital sound was really complicated, did not last very long, and only got used on a few other movies before it was abandoned. The movie was actually Disney's highest grossing ever at the time that it came out, made over $100 million in total, and still was not good enough for Jeffrey Katzenberg, who, as we discussed, wanted the film to earn more in line with what Batman.
He hates money, Steve.
Right? Hates money. He's just like, you know what? Over $100 million is not good enough. Although apparently opening weekend, I think this is hilarious. They said they made something like $1.5 million opening week on t-shirt sales, but it turned out that part of the reason that was true is because theaters in some parts of the country were requiring people to buy a Dick Tracy t-shirt in order to get tickets for the midnight premiere.
That's right.
So Lastly, real quick, the film was nominated for a litany of awards, 7 Academy Awards, some of which it won, plus British Film Academy Awards, Chicago Film Critics Awards, Golden Globes, the Saturn Awards, a whole bunch of stuff. So considering the fact that it was nominated for all these awards, some of which it won, and it made money, it's unbelievable to me they wouldn't make the sequels. But that's pretty much all from me.
My final thought is that Charlie Korsmo has a funny line as a kid. He says, "Suck an egg."
Yes. He does.
I feel like he says that because you can't say "suck a dick" in a movie called Dick Tracy.
You're probably right. Apparently that was real slang. I actually asked my mom's father about that after he'd seen it. And he's like, oh yeah, in the 30s we would say that.
Suck an egg.
Right?
I'll teach you to be happy. I'll teach your grandmother to suck eggs. Ren and Stimpy.
Yes. I also like suck a golf ball through a garden hose.
Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, it's your favorite pastime. Phil, final thoughts?
Yes, final thoughts on this one. I still to this day enjoy taking the film out for a good watch. I recently bought the Blu-ray maybe 2-3 years ago on sale on Amazon, and it looked so incredibly stunning, worlds beyond what I was used to seeing on the VHS and even the Laserdisc.
Yeah.
What I will say is that what I find interesting about this film is comparing it to what else was happening at that time in the summer of 1990. Found out that Dick Tracy was the 9th highest grossing film in America in 1990, behind Driving Miss Daisy, but ahead of Back to the Future Part 3. It opened in theaters the same day as Gremlins 2: The New Batch. That weekend, it went up against Another 48 Hours, Total Recall, Pretty Woman, Back to the Future Part 3, The Adventures of Milo and Otis, Bird on a Wire, Cadillac Man, and even Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And after 3 whole weeks of being in the #1 box office spot, guess what movie knocked it out?
1990. Let's see.
Yeah, what else came out? God, you've already gone over all the big ones I would have thought of. I would have figured it was BTTF or something.
This is a real shock when you find out what knocked Dick Tracy off the #1 spot. But it has to do, I'll give you a little hint. It has to do with a pop icon heartthrob of the 1980s.
About 19... So it wasn't the one about Jerry Lee Lewis, and it wasn't the one about La Bamba.
Nope. This is an actual real life, like an actor heartthrob, not a character. Not like a legendary person.
Oh.
An actor heartthrob who was huge in the 80s and continued to make films throughout the 90s.
Oh my God, I can't believe I can't come up with an answer for this.
Korey?
I don't know.
Yeah, go for it.
Days of Thunder, Tom Cruise.
Wait, but that's about NASCAR drivers.
What I'm saying was Tom Cruise was a heartthrob in the 80s, and it was because...
I totally misunderstood what you meant. All right, I get you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so of all things, to knock Dick Tracy off the #1 spot, Days of Friggin' Thunder.
Yeah, that movie was huge. And God, I mean, what a summer. I didn't see Total Recall until a year or two later on home video when my dad showed it to me. Yeah. But Gremlins 2, BTTF 3, Dick Tracy, my God, I was at a lot of movies that summer.
Same.
Wow.
One more final thought from me before we wrap is that the amount of ADR that they put on Al Pacino in this very last sequence when he's kidnapping Tess is insane.
Yeah.
It's a bit much.
Yeah.
It's like nonstop ADR. Yes. And very few times do they even try to hide that fact.
Yeah. All right. I mean, you know what? I'm gonna wait. I didn't even get one in, so I'm gonna get one in. This is my opportunity right now. When they did Ridley Scott's final version of Blade Runner, there was a moment where in the movie that was notorious, where Deckard was supposed to be in a shop talking to the shopkeeper, and the lips didn't match the dialogue. They couldn't get Harrison to come in to help them fix it, so they got his son, who looks almost the same as him. They had his son come in and sit in front of a green screen with a special camera focused on his face and had the son read the dialogue. So when they went back to do the movie, they fixed Harrison Ford's lips by overdubbing his son's mouth onto his face, and it looks perfect.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right?
Anything Star Wars related, Steve?
I like Star Wars.
Oh, we already talked about the Mighty Boosh.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. We're going to go into ratings. Phil, you're our guest. You're up first on any rating scale you want. What are you going to give Dick Tracy?
I've been waiting for this. We didn't mention this, but I will say this is the rhetoric I'm going to use in terms of oversized Looney Tunes looking cans of chili that just simply say chili on them. I'm going to give this film 7 out of 10 cans of chili. I will say again, it's a movie that I enjoy rewatching from time to time. I had a great childhood growing up with it. Even my own 7th birthday party was Dick Tracy themed. My mom got yellow party hats with Dick Tracy stickers on them. The cake had the logo, that famous silhouette logo, which I now have a mini poster of in my second bedroom at home. And I still enjoy it. It holds up, in my opinion, for a good time to look back in a history of the Disney company where they weren't so concerned about doing better than Batman or better than Star Wars. It was just a good movie to say, hey, we can do a movie like this with the technology we've got. And you know what? Here it is. Take it as you like it.
Nice.
Very cool. I'm going to go next. I'm going to give this movie, I think, a 6.5 micro dicks out of 10.
Oh.
I think it's a decent enough movie. What this movie has going for it is really what it won an Oscar for, and that's the art direction and the makeup. Those are absolutely phenomenal. I think they surpass the story of Dick Tracy in a lot of ways. Like, they grab me a lot more than the story itself does. And there's some cool performances in here, obviously, right? With this many noteworthy actors, you're going to get some cool shit. I really like the way this flat top guy looks, and just the way a lot of these like weirdos, these creepy ghouls look. They're kind of like scary. They're kind of just freakish, like a bunch of fucking circus freaks escaped and took over a town. I really like that. Dick Tracy himself, I feel like he's all right, but I feel like more so than like my intrigue in the character or this particular story they're telling surrounding that character is just like where they are and like who's involved in this story. The way things look in this movie is pretty crazy, and a lot of like the effects to make it look the way it looks are pretty creative and cool, and that kind of just like adds to the vibe of this movie. It's super stylized in a way that you don't see a lot. Like it definitely has kind of its own thing going for it, despite being similar in some ways to Batman 89, similar in other ways to Batman 66. It's still really cool, and it's kind of its own thing. It's definitely a very creative endeavor, Dick Tracy. You can never take that away from this movie, whether you like it or not. This movie was not in my rotation as a kid, and I can kind of see why. I don't think I could quite get behind this one in a way that I could for like Batman 89. It's just, for me as a kid, I could see that this wouldn't have been my vibe as much, and it's also not my vibe as much as an adult, but I still like it. Don't hate this movie at all, Steve, so don't take that the wrong way.
I'm personally insulted already.
Unless it's a 10 out of 10. Steve would not be happy. Now, Steve, you're up. Go ahead. On any rating scale you want.
Even I'm not going to go quite for a 10, but I'm going to get pretty close. I'm going to give this movie 8.5 out of 10 sexually frustrated detectives. I think this movie looks fantastic. I would agree that the look, the makeup, the set design outshine even the other elements of it. But I also think that generally it's very well acted. I think the actors pretty much all nail their parts. Madonna's sort of the weakest link in it, but I think that she managed to carry Breathless well enough to not bother me. I loved this film the moment I saw it in a theater, and I love it just as much now. It was very much part of my rotation growing up. It was a once or twice a year guarantee. And I think I'm probably going to continue watching it forever. I can hardly think of anything that translated from the comic book to the screen this perfectly. Even if you love every other, and this is not a slight, I'm not trying to be controversial right now, but even if you love every other comic book movie that's ever been made, I don't think there's very many of them that really, truly look like they were just lifted straight from the panel, and this one does to me, which I'm quite fond of. So yeah, real good experience for me. I'm going to keep watching it.
Awesome. Now, Phil, you're our special guest today. Maybe people are interested in what you have to say. Where can people find more of what you do?
Well, I have a YouTube channel that you can look up specifically by searching the name of an audio commentary series I did for a few years called Phil's Flicks. And Flicks has to be spelled Phillicks. There's about 4 episodes I did, including Flight of the Navigator, Ghostbusters 84, Police Academy, the original, as well as The Christmas Story, the original Christmas Story. And there's also videos of me talking about my collection of movies that I have. Long Live Physical Media, gotta get that in there. And if anyone out there listening finds me to be a nice, comforting voice, again, this is kind of my background. I did radio for many years in college, as well as traffic reporting on the air here out in Las Vegas, where I'm broadcasting to you from right now. Feel free to ask me to join your shows or podcast. I'd love to contribute, especially if the topic involves movies, especially movies that I love. Pre-2010, you'll get plenty of wit and humor, as well as some surprise knowledge along the way you never knew.
All right. Thank you very much, both, for being here on this episode.
Phil's been a great guest if you can afford him. Expensive guy.
If you, the listeners, want to write in, you can email me at bigdumbmovie@gmail.com. My biggest ask for any listener, the best thing you can do to support this podcast, is leave a positive rating and written review on Apple Podcasts. I'd also like you guys to rate us on Spotify, give the 5-star rating if you've listened to a full episode. That option will open up. And keep your Spotify comments coming in. I like seeing them. I appreciate all you guys out there. I think that's all I got for this time. We're going to call it here. So thank you very much for listening. We love you, and good night.
Big Dumb Movie with your host Korey, breathing in nostalgia in all of its glory. Watching movies like The Terminator. I'll be back with reviews later with some guests. Steve's your savior. Cut the lights, it's showtime. May the force be with you tonight. Dumb movie, woo. How the hell was this movie made? To the right, don't be afraid. Big Dumb Movie, woo.
Mary Had a Little Lamb. Jeez.
Go ahead, do the Mary Had a Little Lamb rap from Sister Act 2.
I don't know. I do not know the words to that at all. I don't even remember that scene.
It's the same words. You just rap it.
I think Mary Had a Little Lamb are the only words to that I remember.
Mary had a little lamb. His fleece was white as snow.
Oh, there you go.
And everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
Okay, there you go. Now I remember, right?
Do you remember Sister Act 2 at all?
Only little bits. I have seen it, but not since it was still way newer than it is now. Yeah.
I used to like the Sister Act movies as a kid.
I thought they were amusing. They were those types of movies, like if I were flipping around and I saw one of them on Showtime, there was at least a chance I'd stop and watch it.
Exactly. Yeah, they're so like easy to watch. That's the way I describe those movies. They're just like super digestible. They're not super engaging either, but they're also like kind of easy to watch.
I would do a lot of this. I bet you would do something similar. First it was in the living room, and then I had a TV in my bedroom, so I'd end up doing it in my bedroom. But I'd end up sprawled out across the floor,
jerking off.
Well, that too, obviously. But 3 or 4 binders worth of cards, and I'd be reorganizing them and putting them into sleeves, or I'd have comics out and I'd be sequencing. Maybe I'd got 2 or 3 new ones, and I wanted to add them in. So I'd always want something on the TV. But when I was doing that sort of stuff, it was always nice to have a movie that I didn't have to pay a lot of attention to.
That was ideal, yeah.
Yeah.
When I got a little bit older, it became like the boombox. I'd have the music going.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Something special about having a movie on while you do stuff. Occasionally, I'll still do that at home. I'll put on like Hook while we're gonna clean.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad somebody else carried that into adulthood because I like doing that. It's like I don't want it to be something I wouldn't otherwise want to watch at all, but I need it to be something that I can get away with not paying a lot of attention to.
Yes,
that's a great pull because it's another one of the few other films Charlie Korsmo did before he decided he didn't want to be an actor anymore. Which is too bad. He's great.
Now get loud.
Get loud.
Talk a little bit more regular.
What else is there? Oh, did you see Death of a Unicorn?
No.
I guess that's asking me to talk. I missed it. I meant to see it. I'm not sure if I'm going to like it or not. I just kind of was curious enough to want to see it. Have you seen this Michael B. Jordan vampire movie?
No, but I really want to.
I do too. All right.
Also, I want to go to see Revenge of the Sith tomorrow, but we have tickets for a comedy show.
Oh, okay. I almost texted you about that, but I'm like, I'm not sure I want to sit through 3, and I don't know the Korey wants to sit through 3. So
I kind of do. I don't think I saw the last one in theaters.
But they were doing anniversary screenings of Empire this last week in other places, and there was nothing in LA. I'm so pissed off about it. I absolutely would have paid to go see Empire on a big screen again. In fact, I haven't read the article yet, but there's something milling around. Apparently, Lucas did an interview and actually made some definitive statement about why he chose to make Yoda speak the way he speaks. So it'll be interesting to catch the article.
Because he was on ketamine.
Probably, yeah.
You know about that Yoda ketamine meme?
Oh, yeah.
It was like a string of memes for a while where it's like Yoda on ketamine and he's like driving a fucking car like insane. It's like really bad like CGI. It's like food fight movie level CGI. And he like will crash into someone and it's like, on ketamine I am.
Right.